Hey, everybody. So, had a little trouble getting in. Paul will be here late, but he asked me to get started. If it's cringe, then why do you show up? I don't understand. You don't. No one's forcing you to be here. So anyway, just getting people invited in and all. Um, so who's here? Sound off if you're in the audience. Hello, John Highroads. How are you tonight? Just getting things set up a little bit. And yeah, Paul. I don't know where he is tonight. He had some other event going on, um, but so he wanted me to get started. So yeah, I'm glad you're doing well. Yeah, I don't understand people who don't like the show and then come here and troll from the audience. I mean, it's a Saturday night. You don't have anything better to do? Seriously. Um, So hopefully, once everybody gets here, we'll talk about the Aubrey verdict, which I'm happy about. But take a little bit of time to get going. Let's see, just sending out the invites. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. So, how was everybody's Thanksgiving? Those who celebrated, and if you didn't if you do celebrate it, well, I hope you had a great one. If you don't celebrate it, well, I still hope that you have many things to be thankful for, many good people in your life, and good times and events, because that's what it's all about. Um, I know there are some people who don't like to celebrate it because of the bogus mythology that we have attached to it, and I can understand that. I mean, my feeling is that I know the mythology is bogus, and it's actually not how we actually have the holiday, and not really nothing to do with the bogus mythology. Um, yeah, I'm not into football either. Basically, the only sport I care about is baseball, and and I don't care about that as much as I used to. Hey, go Michael.
Baseball.
Yep, yep.
I mean, you're not the only one of the regular Breakfast Clubbers that likes baseball.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Paul by proxy likes baseball because his old lady likes baseball, so therefore he likes it.
Ah, gotcha.
They left
Yeah.
me some tickets once because
Was
they
that?
had to leave town. They left me some tickets once
Oh, cool.
for the 4th of July.
Oh, okay. I remember when you posted pictures from there.
I actually joined the stream from there
Oh, that's right. That's
to
right.
rub it in that I could go.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like if it doesn't start with B and end in ace ball, I don't really care about it. And even now, I don't. I'm not as invested in baseball as I used to. I used to know all the stats and all the players. And I still, I mean, Mets. Yeah, I follow the Mets. I don't even say I'm a fan anymore because basically it's like if they're playing well, I'll watch, and if they're playing like shit, then I'll go do something else because I'm not gonna waste my time when they have a new owner and he's in certain ways more fucked up than the last owners. Oh, there's Raven. Um,
Wasn't New Jersey
oh,
a baseball team?
cool haircut.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
John, I did not watch the parade because I find parades tedious. Even when I was a kid, when a lot of kids like parades, I've never liked them. But yeah, so with baseball, I mean, basically the Mets are always there's always some drama and bullshit and something stupid, and so I just got to the point where I'm like, I can't let myself get upset and sad and let my own happiness get defeated by people who I don't even know, you know? because they just seem to find ways to lose. And even when their team is good, there's a they haven't won a World Series since '86, and they've been in the World Series 3 times since then. And '88 they should have won. They had the best team in baseball, and they didn't even make it to the World Series. And then 2001 they lost to the Yankees, and then 2006 they made it to actually they made it to the playoffs and failed. And then 2015 they made it to the World Series and got beat by a team that wasn't as good as them. But again, they just find ways to be fucked up.
I grew up in Long Beach, California, as a Dodgers fan, and back then I was a big fan of Brett Butler.
Oh, I remember him.
Right, he was their shortstop forever, and
Brett Butler was a center fielder,
and as a shortstop. Let me see. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember that was the guy that signed my bat.
Okay. Yeah, Brett Butler. I mean, Brett Butler did play for the Dodgers. In fact, near the end of his career, he ended up in the Mets for like one season or part of it.
So Darryl Strawberry had some like cocaine problem, right? And then he got bought by the Yankees, right? And that was like the beginning of the end for me, as far as like realizing every good player gets bought by the Yankees.
Yeah.
And so like the problem with baseball, in my opinion, is every year the Yankees buy up all the good players.
That's definitely happens a lot, and it's just. Although the funny thing is, even though that's the case, like I don't think they've won. If they had like one World Series in like the last 20 years, they just because the thing is that like just because you have the best players, you don't always have good chemistry, and that matters with a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
When you end up having a lot of selfish people, they don't always do what's necessary to win. This is interesting. I actually looked at Brett Butler. So he was on the Dodgers, then came to the Mets, then went back to the Dodgers. And I don't know why he didn't stay on and he actually, his numbers were pretty good for the season, the part of the season he was with the Mets. So I don't know why they didn't. It's been so long, I don't remember. I wasn't. I was 95. I wasn't watching as much because I boycotted because this 94 was the strike season, and so there was no World Series that year. They struck like in like August or something like that. And I was so pissed off that I didn't watch baseball again for like 4 years.
So what I think the biggest problem with baseball is that they have all these teams and they play the games and they put them on TV and people watch them. Football has the same problem.
Yeah, fuck football. I mean, I didn't mind playing football like around the neighborhood and stuff. Because hey, you line up and you smash into people. I mean, that's awesome, right? I remember in college, we played we had the fraternities. We had we had a league, but also freshman year, my dorm played the other freshman men's dorm, and I remember this guy Glenn became a friend of mine. So I'm playing. I guess it's nose tackle. The guy who's opposite the center, and I'm just wrecking him. Like every time the ball snapped. I mean, I'm not fast enough to catch the quarterback, but I could like take a couple people out and open up a hole for other people to go in and do the job. And so I'm lining up, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm trying to psych him out, and I'm sitting there like, and, getting all like angry and snorting and everything. And after every snap, I would just run him over. And I remember at one point we're on the line and I'm sitting there, glaring at him and trying to intimidate him. And he has the ball and he like slowly looks up and sees me. And I see this look on his face like, oh, this is gonna hurt. and I wrecked it. But we became friends after that because I had so much respect for his ability to just keep coming back from all the punishment I was giving him.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So topic-wise, I'd like to talk about the Aubrey case.
All right.
So the thing about the Aubrey case to me, on the one hand, I mean, I'm glad we got the verdict that we got.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a good video by Bo of the Fifth Column, and I'd been thinking this already, and he really captured it. Everyone was like, "Oh, the system worked," and it's like, no, actually, the system only did what it did because there was a public outcry. I mean, basically, the original DA was trying to bury it, and it was again they had a conflict of interest as it was, and then they assigned another DA who also had a conflict of interest, and they tried to bury it, and because they knew the guy, and it was all like, and then they were basically saying, "Oh yeah, it's self-defense," and it wasn't until the video was released, and the irony, the video was released by one of the three guys, because the father and son, the third dude, they had talked on the phone. He followed them and he recorded it, and then he believe it or not, he actually thought that video would exonerate them. So and he was really more concerned about the media, because the media was going off about it, but it was before the video was released. And so he put it up on purpose to say, "Oh, see, they were just defending themselves." And then people saw the actual video and was like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And then within days after that, that's when the charges were brought. So basically, the system only did its job once people got pissed off and kicked it in the ass. And that's why, I mean, so some people were saying, well, it came up better than Rittenhouse. Like, well, only barely. And even there, I was not convinced that that I knew that they should get convicted, but I wasn't convinced they were going to.
I watched a Kyle Rittenhouse interview with Tucker Carlson, and it was obviously a coached interview.
Yeah.
And there were some things in there that made me, think, well, that does kind of make sense as far as how the verdict came out. But he dropped a little fact in that interview that towards the very end of the trial, the prosecutors admitted that they knew the identity of the guy who did the flying jump kick to his face. And that person's identity had been suppressed by the prosecutor the entire fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Then going back to look at the moments right before he shot all the other people, right? After the first shooting, and they're all coming to get him. Watching Jump Kick Man, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that does kind of, say something about why wouldn't the prosecutors want Jump Kick Man up on the stand?
Right.
See,
the thing is that the one thing also was that the judge suppressed was that he wrote on social media about how he was going to go down there and shoot somebody. So, so this idea that, well, it was just like a random thing that happens. Like, no, that to me shows intent. So it was in his head already that he was planning on shooting somebody. And so to me, that kind of blows away the self-defense. Plus the fact that he had an illegal weapon. Basically, if you're in the commission of a crime, like, pretty much throws self-defense out. But the judge threw out the weapons charge. If the weapons charge had stuck, then in all probability he would have got convicted. Maybe not a murder, but he probably would have got convicted on the lesser charge. But because it pretty much throws out self-defense once you're in a commission of a crime. Because here's the thing, just say you and I were talking about committing a robbery, just say, and I decide to back out and say, I'm not going to do it, and you go and you commit the robbery, and in the course of the robbery someone dies. Not only are you on the hook, in fact, there's been cases where a cop came, shot somebody, an innocent person, by accident, but then you're still on the hook because you were in the commission of a crime, and then I would still be on the hook because I was part of your conspiracy. So even though I wasn't even fucking there, so that's how the law works. So yeah, so if you basically are committing a crime, you're pretty much on the hook for anything that happens. If someone dies, you don't get self-defense.
2 days after the verdict for Rittenhouse, I saw rustlings about a federal grand jury being convened in Wisconsin. And I believe the whole reason for that is the way that the judge threw out that weapons charge basically crippled the prosecution.
Yeah. Yeah, people are like, oh, the prosecution did a bad job. No, they were undercut. I mean, the judge didn't put his thumb on the scale. He sat on this fucking scale.
Yeah, and I feel like what they're looking for now before they announce any sort of inquest into the matter is they're probably going to wait and see if they can prove that Rittenhouse did cross state lines that day and was dropped off by his mom, because that's things I've heard.
Right.
But in the Tucker Carlson interview, that is not what he said in the courtroom. That is not what was said. What was said was that he was lifeguarding the day before and spent the night at his friend's house, never left the state. And so his whereabouts that day, the day of and the day prior, are certainly in question.
Yeah.
Because I've heard conflicting stories about this.
Thing is, at some point he crossed state lines.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why they're talking about a federal grand jury, is because he did cross state lines.
He had to.
He had to.
Whatever it was, because he was not in his home state.
Even if he spent the night there, that doesn't mean, that doesn't take anything away. I mean, he crossed state line. You don't know that he didn't spend the night there knowing he was going to go to the protest the next day.
Having a job across state lines gives him reason to be there, other than just
Yeah, but did he really have a job in Wisconsin, though?
lifeguarding. He had reason to be there.
Did he actually go to work?
But his father lives there too, supposedly. So it's just like, I mean, there's lots of reasons he could have been there. That doesn't equate taking an AR-15 or an AK-47, whatever the fuck he had,
AR-15.
Protest. So it's just like,
yeah.
So,
plus the fact, again, he did write about it, and unfortunately, the writing were tossed out, which go to motive. I mean, there's so many things, and there were certain things that got thrown out that were like, well, you could go either way, but like there was a bunch of other stuff, like some of these things, especially like the weapons charge, that were like across the board, like legal experts were like, we don't understand this, judge.
well, he had posted that he wanted to sit outside of CVS and shoot people as they came out.
Yeah,
he posted that to Facebook.
Right. The other thing too, like the judge not allowing the prosecution to call them victims, and it's like, well, and somebody said, well, he has to prove it. Like, well, no, but that's part of the case. The whole thing is, in a case, the prosecution is making their best case, the defense is making their best case, and routinely the prosecution will call, even if it's in question, they'll still call the person a victim. I mean, they called robbery a victim in that trial.
Right. I mean, it's like, yeah, that was ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of people defend that. And it's just like, but that's the whole point of the trial, is that there are people that are dead, and he actually did kill them. So whether he was self-defense or in a drug-induced state or aliens took over his body, he still killed those people. They're dead. They're victims of his actions. Whether or not it was self-defense is not really relevant to the word used to describe them. They got bullets in them and they're dead. They're victims.
Right.
What the judge did was he put the victims on trial.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, and basically, which should never be the case, because I know a lot of people defending Rittenhouse were like, oh, well, one of the guys that was killed had been previously convicted on a sex offense charge. I'm like, that's not relevant. I mean, okay, he's a bad guy. Let's assume that everybody that ever gets killed is a bad person. That doesn't mean that the people who killed them had the justification to do the killing. And we don't. I don't believe that we want a society of Lawrence of Rittenhouse didn't know any of that. But even if he did, we don't want a society of vigilantes running around killing people. That's just not. That's just going to be anarchy.
Judge Dredd.
Right.
Well,
it actually is even worse because at least Judge Dredd was commissioned by the state for that function.
Yeah, but he was the judge and the jury and the executioner.
Right.
That's what Rittenhouse did. He was the judge, the jury, and the executioner.
Yeah.
But like people talking about like Rosenbaum and the other guy, I went through Facebook, scrolling through Facebook, and I just started blocking people like crazy or unfriending them. Because they were posting these. It was like a copy pasta basically of I didn't know that Kyle Rittenhouse was there to put out fires. I didn't know that there was a dumpster going down the hill towards a gas station that was on fire. I didn't know. And it's like, okay, all these people are posting the exact same thing, which means they're just copying and pasting it, number one. And number two, you still don't know all that stuff because it's just copy pasted. This is something that is just, basically masturbating your feelings over this. It's making you feel better to post this, and you can say, well, look, other people have said this, so that confirms my own point of view. No, fuck you. Unfriend. Goodbye.
Also, I'm going to object. I'm going to get a feed.
You're breaking up a little bit.
There we go. Okay. I'm going to object to the whole thing of calling him a kid because I'm sick and tired of, black kids who are, basically black people below 18 are routinely treated and referred to as though they're much older than they really are. In fact, there was a 13-year-old kid who was, I don't know if he was one of the victims, but anyway, he was in this case was referred to as a 13-year-old man by somebody. There's no 13-year-old men. So I'm sick and tired of if it's a white guy, oh, you're just a child, and then if it's black, there's been a number of again, black kids, put on trial as adults at 13. So I'm tired of that shit. Would I do that when I was 17? No, because I don't like guns and I've never, as much as, we all might have the impetus, the desire, well, we really wish you could take somebody out. I've never come close to actually doing it. So no, not at 17, not at 53.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a dumb kid. That's for getting caught doing something stupid, like after curfew or
taking the parents' car without asking for permission.
Yeah, dumb kid doing stupid thing. Got pulled over. And, no, not killing people.
Yeah, well, it's just like the Steubenville case. You have the college age guys rape a drunk girl, and then it's like, oh well, what about them? They got their whole life ahead of her. Like, well, what about her? And that's the thing. It wasn't even, in dispute what happened, but somehow it's like, oh well, they're just young. We have to understand bullshit. If those guys who raped that girl were black or Hispanic, they would be in jail right now.
I can see that.
But again, if you're old enough to operate a gun, you're not a kid anymore. You're old enough to kill people with a rifle.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if Rittenhouse is going to get the OJ style verdict, where in the criminal case he just got off, but in a civil case, he might have to be poor for the rest of his goddamn life.
Oh yeah, because the burden of proof is very different in a civil case than civil case is just preponderance of the evidence. It just doesn't not have the reasonable doubt.
Remove him from the situation, and none of that happens.
Right. Well, that's the thing. He went there. I mean, that's the other thing too. I get pissed off when, the whole thing when cops do the thing. Oh, I was scared for my life. Like when the cop instigates the thing that leads to gunplay, and then they'll go, I was scared. It's like, well, yeah, that's your own fault. Like Amadou Diallo, Guy sitting on his porch, unmarked car with unmarked officers jump out, pull their guns. Whether they say they were police or not, if you're in Brooklyn and 4 dudes get out of a car with guns, I don't care what the fuck they say, you're gonna run because otherwise you're dead. And
in his case, I don't even know that they would have given him the amount of time it would take to hit the ground.
No. And
Being shot. They would have shot him in midair.
Yeah, and it was 41 shots at him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, somebody who, and here's the other thing too. Okay, now so the police didn't know whether or not Rittenhouse had fired in self-defense or not. He may have, may not have from that at that point. He just, killed 2 and shot a bunch of other people, and he went up to them, and they didn't even detain him. He was actually trying to turn himself in, and they didn't even fucking detain him.
So, in the Tucker Carlson interview, Rittenhouse said that one of the policemen, he didn't think that he heard him, and the policeman replied to him, "Go home."
Yeah, right. So they knew what happened. They're like, "I'll just go."
And Rittenhouse said that he tried to turn himself into the police department there in that city, and that it was basically blocked off and nobody was there because they were all out because of the protests. And then he went back home.
Boy, we got to spray. We got to mace and shoot rubber bullets at darkies and their friends.
Yeah, but then so he crosses state lines right after the commission of what happened, which I'm calling a crime, in order to turn himself into the Antioch police.
Yeah.
The whiter than Kenosha police. That might treat him better.
Yeah.
And did they take him into custody then? No.
Meanwhile, black dude is filling up his gas into his car. Cop shows up, demands ID. The guy goes to get his ID out of his car, and he gets shot. Thankfully, that dude lived. Again, I've said this before, and I'll say it 100 million more times. Like this whole Second Amendment thing. It's bullshit. I mean, there was actually I bought a book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I actually got the audio. I bought both the print book and the audio book. But it's called Second, and it's basically talks about the unequal way that the Second Amendment has been applied in America for pretty much forever. Mm-hmm. And also the unequal way that the NRA has supported or not supported people in their Second Amendment rights. Because like John Crawford III, John Crawford had it was a toy gun, but the cops thought it was real, ambushed and blown away. You would think that the so-called premier defender of Second Amendment rights would have been out there saying, "Hey, this could have happened to any of us. We got to stop the cops from freaking out every time they think someone's got a gun." Fucking crickets, not a fucking word. And John Crawford. And some people say, they're not going to defend somebody if they're breaking the law. John Crawford III was not breaking a single law. He was shopping, not breaking any laws. And the gun defenders were nowhere to be found.
One of the things that I find for my own sentiment that doesn't rile me up about this is the fact that he crossed state lines.
Mm.
And it's because of my own lived experience, not living in big cities for my entire life. Also, I've driven from Milwaukee to Chicago 100 times in the past, right? I used to go right through Kenosha down to Carroll Stream outside of Chicago in between labs all the time. I driven that stretch, and it is a continuous splotch of cement. Much like a lot of the counties in where I grew up in Southern California, one big splotch of cement on the earth with imaginary lines that when you cross them, you're in another state. The way that it plays on liberal media, most people who live in big cities are going to respond to the he crossed state lines thing as if it's a giant distance. But anyone in Kansas City probably thinks, you know what?
Okay.
Across the state
So
line.
I live in the country.
Yeah.
I live in the country. We don't have sidewalks. We don't have street lights. I live in the woods, right? I am about 2 miles from the New York state line. Jasper Avi, YouTuber Jasper Avi, lives in the next town over on the other side of the state line. Um, it's a couple of miles away, the state line. It's a huge distance. It's a 5 to 10 minute drive because country roads. It's a 5 to 10 minute drive. Um, but it's still a huge distance because it's New York State. I can see it, but it's New York State. It's another state. The mentality when you live near a state line, at least my experience and pretty much everyone I know who lives right on the state line, New York State is another state, and crossing the state line is a big deal, especially if you're going to do something that's illegal. So that to say that the way liberal media paints it, and that people in the cities think like, oh well, he crossed, that means something. He's crossed it. It does mean something. And I don't live in the city. I live on the state line, and it is a big deal.
Well,
It does.
actually,
It's not as big in that corridor that we're talking about in Kenosha.
well,
Because the connection between Milwaukee and Chicago, like every little town along there, it's like they don't feel like they're in different places. They feel like they're in the Midwest.
because I'm 15. Well, right this time of day because there's no traffic. I can be in Manhattan in 15 minutes. But it's still going to New York. Still feels like going to New York.
I don't care what anybody says. New York City is part of New Jersey.
You can have it. No fight there.
I mean, well, actually, it was funny if you fly out of Newark, when at night, so there's all the lights, and you use about continuous concrete. I mean, yeah, there's the river there, but basically, it's it's mega city.
Living in Denver, I do feel like it's a different message that I hear when someone says cross state lines, because it's 100 miles in any direction
Right.
to get to a state line, right? Where he lives and where he works crosses the state line every fucking day.
Probably more than 100 miles.
I can see New York State and Pennsylvania from my deck. So I don't know. I don't know.
The other thing that I thought was interesting in that interview with Tucker Carlson, you know what Rittenhouse wants to be when he grows up?
Me?
No idea.
He had aspirations to be a cop.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah. That was pretty well known. He wants to be super cop. That's why he was there. He was being super cop.
Yeah. Hopefully, life works out in a different way for him. He also said something very interesting that I don't think that gets said very often on Fox News. He said in that interview, I actually support Black Lives Matter. And I was like, oh, well, you just lost everyone who was a fan of you now.
Well, no, obviously not, because they see that for what it is.
Yeah.
He's trying to protect himself by saying that. That's exactly what that is.
It looked very coached, the entire interview, and not very edited, but very coached.
Well, that's why that's why I didn't bother watching. First off, I didn't want to have to listen to fucking Tucker Carlson's voice. But I knew all this shit it's like I said, it's all coached and it's all performance for that particular audience. So, there's to me there was no point in watching it. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to learn anything that was going to change anything significant for me. So, I didn't watch the trial for the same reason, because I once I saw the judge was in the tank for the defense, I knew there was no point in watching. I knew there was zero chance at that point.
Okay, so I have a question.
Sure.
Joe, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was actually wonderful. So my cousin Lori and my cousin Adriana both came over. Lori was one of the long lost Pats from my long lost aunt, and Lori is that was Adriana, and Lori is my mom's first cousin, so she's my first cousin once removed. And basically, her parents are gone, and she doesn't get along with her mother's side of the family. So we connected about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, because I'd met her before, but like we didn't really interact too much. But I reconnected with her, and we've been pretty close friends since then. So so that was a good time, and I made turkey, and my wife made stuffing and mashed potatoes, and Lori, actually Adriana brought a cauliflower dish and salad, and I made sweet potato pie, and Lori made a very professional looking cheesecake. Um, so yeah, we had a great time, ate a lot of food. They came over like 2:30 and like hung out till like 9:30. So we had like really great time hanging out, and they got to play with the puppy. The puppies were loving it because there were a lot of people to adore them, and so that was great. And yeah, that was one of the best Thanksgivings I've had in a while. How about yourself, Raven?
It was good. A lot of food. We still have some. It was me, Peach, the boys, and Rochelle, my daughter. And it was pretty good. Lots of food. I also spent a lot of time online, and I have decided I am really annoyed by the whole don't celebrate Thanksgiving, and Native people don't recognize it because it's so awful, and all you're doing is celebrating a capitalist system that destroyed. You're celebrating atrocities and genocide, and I decided I don't really want to hear that. I decided that that's bullshit, partly because I saw an exchange on Twitter between Lou Diamond Phillips and another native, and they wished each other a happy Thanksgiving. One said Wapilotanka, which means the greatest of thanks. And they were like, blessings to our people and all this other stuff. And it was just like, yeah, natives are celebrating Thanksgiving, so shut the fuck up.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's I think it's in one of those cases where white people wanting to do right, but basically
that's exactly what I said. I said
going too far and being offended on and mind you, I get being offended by the bullshit narrative. Oh, the first thing and the thing is, my attitude, and I said this before you came on, I already know that narrative is bullshit. I stopped believing that 20 years ago. So I'm not I have no illusions of any of that crap. I mean, it is actually remotely true, but I don't. That's not why I do it, because I have things in my life that I'm happy for. I appreciate the people in my life that make my life good, and I'm celebrating that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's remotely true, right? Yeah. There's a kernel of truth in the legend of the story, right. And okay. I don't think anybody sits down to Thanksgiving. I don't know, because I don't sit at everyone's table. I just don't think, I have a hard time believing anybody sits down for Thanksgiving dinner and thinks about that first.
Right.
First Thanksgiving. Number one. And number two, Thanksgiving isn't even something that we celebrated for the entire history of our country. It's a made up. Yes, all holidays are made up. But, it's a made up holiday after the fact, that many, many years after the fact, in order to instill, feelings of country and all this other bullshit, and, I don't know, I am spending the day eating really good food that I don't get to eat all the time and spending it with family. I think that's what most people are celebrating.
Well, exactly. And plus, like I said, the modern federal holiday of Thanksgiving doesn't actually have anything to do with the bullshit narrative.
Yeah.
The bullshit narrative was actually made up or pushed forward by companies looking to sell shit. but the actual
It's
story is that,
capitalism, baby.
yeah, the actual story is just like Christmas, right? But the actual story is that some woman in the 1800s kept writing to the government, and eventually
Yes.
Lincoln's like, okay, fine, we'll have a day of Thanksgiving.
Yes. So I mean, I don't obviously remember people's names and the tribe name and everything else. I mean, I know it's talked about and it's based on historical fact and that the natives had helped the settlers basically prepare for and survive the winter.
Yeah.
And the thanks they got was being slaughtered later on. But I mean, yes, yes, we know this. We all know this. This is, I don't need some, 24-year-old smartass on Twitter letting me know.
Well, the other thing too, this is an argument I had with Shayra some time ago. My thing is, look, if you really honestly feel like, hey, look, I I am bothered because of even to the extent that the story is true, I don't want to go down this route because what was happening is after. And okay, I get that. And I don't begrudge anybody who feels that way. I really don't. But my thing is they only ever bring this shit up at Thanksgiving, and like where are and maybe on Columbus Day, and I'm like, well, where are they the rest of the fucking year? What are you doing for Indigenous people? And that's the thing. I know people who they're activists and they help try to do things to help. And hey, then you know what? They can complain about it all they want because they're putting up. They're not. It's not just words. They're actually doing something. Well, like I said, I never hear anything. I never hear a fucking word
Right.
about the Native people other than on Thanksgiving and
Columbus Day.
and
So
Columbus Day.
I saw somebody say that instead of doing Thanksgiving with their family, what they do is they take the money that they would have spent on their Thanksgiving dinner and they, give it to a charity for natives.
Right, awesome.
Which okay, that's great. But again, it's but $150 tops.
Right.
Once a year. So it's like okay, and also I always, something I had to remind myself also is that there are natives who do feel the way that some folks say that they feel, and that my observation of that one exchange between these two natives, one who was born on a military base, Lou Diamond Phillips, is a big star. He was born in the Philippines on a military base. His father's Cherokee. He's only part Indian. Um, and the other one, I don't even know who it is. It's some Lakota man. You know, that's two people. That's neither one of them really represents their particular nation. So there's just two people. So I'm sure there are people who feel the way that people like Shara say, that natives don't like this or they get upset. I'm sure there are. But there are also natives who are giving the greatest thanks.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing. And well, it's just like okay, I'm all for for instance, I'm all for changing Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day because Columbus was a piece of shit, and I don't think we should venerate him. That said, I do get annoyed when people act like Columbus's expedition landing on Hispaniola was not a historically significant event. It changed the course of history. So yeah, I can both acknowledge that it was a significant event in history and also say he's a piece of shit. So it looks like she's in a car. They're not. It's kind of like the whole thing.
Yes, they can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
To where?
It's kind of like the whole thing with Thomas
That will take
Jefferson. He's like, yeah, he did do significant things. He was also a slave monger and a rapist. So so it's like, and actually my favorite summation of how to view Jefferson is if you ever watch the epic rap battles of history, Jefferson versus Frederick Douglass. Watch it when you have a chance. It is fucking awesome because on the one hand, Jefferson lays out all the shit he did, and he did all those things, And Frederick Douglass is just like, bam, and just points out all the things he didn't do and the bad things he did do.
So Frederick Douglass, I mean, there's somebody. Hey, he's a lot more and more recognition these days.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's making the he's making the rounds. He's getting out there.
The other thing I love about for rap battles in general, because they do this with all of them, but this one in particular, is they fold in small little historical facts or literary facts in the case of a fictional character, and like put these little drop things. Like one of the things, like that Frederick in the rap, Frederick Douglass makes the point that that you had six children with your slave baby mama. You didn't even free her when you died on the 4th of July. Which was a very important holiday. But what the fuck does it mean to this guy? And of course, because Frederick Douglass wrote what is 4th of July, Independence Day to the slave, because of course we were not freed, we were still in bondage, so it meant nothing for us. We didn't gain any rights. So it's not. So his point was, don't expect me to celebrate because it didn't do shit for me. Little things like that. Or like one of the things they and when Jefferson's doing his part, they're like, he's like, first Secretary of State, second VP, and third president. So he guys was in order 1, 2, 3.
So it's like Thomas Jefferson. Like Frederick Douglass, yes, was a badass, but so was Thomas Jefferson. And yes, he was kind of a piece of shit, but he was a badass. You got to remember, this guy was like hiding from the authorities. He was hiding from the British because they wanted his ass. And I mean, when we did the meetup in Philadelphia, we actually went to one of the places where Jefferson lived, yeah, they told the whole story about how he would hide at different locations because they were looking for him. Yeah, so, but a lot of the founding fathers were badasses when you think about it. But one of the things I always, say, like, at that point in time in history, all of these men had met and they formed the country and they wrote these documents and everything else. That's like, hey, what's up, princess?
Not much. Oh yeah, I forgot I had that on. That's funny.
Yeah.
Are your eyebrows glowing purple?
What?
Are your eyebrows glowing purple?
Well, they're
Red.
pink, but yeah.
Pink? Oh my goodness.
They always are. You just probably can't see them because most of the time I'm in the dark. I'm trying to figure out. Pardon me. I'm in the car because I'm headed east to Spokane, and I'm trying to figure out how to hook this up to the car's audio because it doesn't seem to be registering the Bluetooth. And I don't have earbuds because they need to be charged, and they take old-timey charging connection, which is frustrating and annoying. Anyway, so I'm trying to figure out how I can mute myself. Can you guys hear bad feedback because I'm in a vehicle? You're muted, serious. Joe, you're muted.
You sound fine.
You sound fine.
I sound fine right now. Okay, that's cool. Well,
so, Joe, I will be watching that link later.
Cool.
Raven, you didn't ask me, but I'll tell you that my Thanksgiving sucked donkey balls.
I would have gotten there, but we just kind of went in another direction, and then we have
three reasons my Thanksgiving sucked, and all three taught me something about the world.
Oh,
the
go.
first one is we had a Boston Market Thanksgiving feast ordered, and it was picked up the day before. And right off the bat, the turkey was frozen when they gave it to us the day before Thanksgiving. So it takes a while for turkey to thaw out to be able to cook it in the first place, right? So already something's wrong. But like every bit of that meal was crappy. The turkey itself, whatever seasoning they put on the outside of it, made it taste like cat food.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. The
Yeah.
potatoes, we put it in the microwave, like it said, for 4 minutes, and then take it out, and then it looked like soup, and you could put a fork through it and like strain out like what looked like creamed corn, but it was
Yeah.
supposed to be mashed potatoes, but it was like grits at one point, then creamed corn, and then like 10 minutes later came back to it and it had congealed into mashed potatoes. Right? So like we spent over $100 on this meal deal thing from them, and that's the kind of crap we get is like reconstituted mashed potatoes
Ew.
from Boston Market. They slapped their name on this shit.
Wow.
And it was just it was a terrible, terrible meal. And I learned that never again going back to cooking it all.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm going to go snipe some turkeys tomorrow that are on sale. You
Good
know,
idea.
and have a real Thanksgiving a week late. But
I'm glad you mentioned. Well, I'm sorry that you had a horrible thing, but I like your idea of getting cheap turkeys after because I hadn't thought of that.
well, I also get cheap chocolate
Sorry.
after the Christians don't buy it for their Christmas. I like buy up all the little Jesus fish and eat them because it's on the sale, right? And same thing after Easter. But the second thing that happened was I didn't get to see my brother
What did you have it
because
on?
he was going to a Mansgiving with his friends, and so he wasn't going to be home. So we didn't have Thanksgiving at his house, right? And then at the last minute, his ex said, "No, I need to drop the kids off on you." Like the whole reason why like his plans were different was that he didn't have the kids. So then like it would have changed my plans last minute to go be with family. And what it taught me was like there's people all around the world that are dealing with this kind of shit where one joint custody parent will like mess up plans for the other side of the family and not realize the ramifications of like how many different lives they're affecting.
Or they don't care.
Or they don't care.
And they don't care. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. What gets me, like, okay, you're in a relationship with somebody, it goes south, and you split up. Like, okay, so obviously you may not be unhappy with the other person. You may dislike them. You may even hate them. But like this desire to like hurt them back in some way, and then everybody suffers. And if there are kids, the kids really suffer. And like, well, do you care? You hate that other person more than you love your kids, or what?
Yeah. So the third thing that happened to me happened the day before. And that was I had a bunch of people at the agencies that I work for sign up for counseling on the last day before Thanksgiving. And a lot of their stress came from being forced to see family members that they don't like to see. And I just took on a lot of that. I'm like, wow, this whole holiday is kind of a way that family can browbeat other family members and say, hey, yeah, this person did horrible shit to you, but it's Thanksgiving. You have to. You're obligated to go see them. I'm like, no, you're not. If you don't like that person, you don't have to go see them.
So my brother was at my mom's for Thanksgiving, and I didn't have plans to go see my mom anyway, because we're just now kind of getting on some kind of a, normal kind of standing with each other. So I mean, so we weren't gonna like rush into like, hey, let's do Thanksgiving with mom. But my brother was there, and he's a piece of shit, and he wants to sit down and have a man-to-man conversation with me.
You're late.
Yeah, not happening.
So, well, I mean, I actually told my mother if he really wanted to have that talk, there wouldn't be a man present for the conversation.
Oh,
yeah.
So, but I mean, I was made aware that he was going to be there, and it would be best if I didn't come around, and I agree. So it's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, you told me not to come. It was more like, oh yeah, no, you're right. I'm not.
Dodge that bullet.
So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is amazing. I've seen other people post similar of how like they get people try to guilt them into like, oh, well, you should see this person or that person. I'm kind of like that with my siblings. I mean, basically, I didn't grow up with them, but I've gotten to know them over time. And I mean, basically, I'm close to my sister Denise. I'm close to my brother Kurt. Um, and the others, I mean, I usually ever hear from them when they want something. So it's kind of like I'm reaching a point where like, even when some of them will call me and they'll tell me about the drama, it's like, I didn't want to fucking hear about them because it's like, why? I don't need. It's like, hey, let's just have our thing and not have them around, and because it's oh,
I have another question. Where's Paul?
I don't know. He had to be somewhere. He's apparently having a good week, which he posted earlier that he's had such a great week. I think he might still be out in St. Louis. I don't know, but there's probably some sort of gathering going on that he said he was expecting to be on later on if we're still on.
Well, I'm worried about him if he's still in St. Louis because it's one of those breeding grounds for viruses, and we've got a new one now.
And racism.
Yeah, Omicron.
Yeah. If anywhere's going to get Omicron first in the country, it's going to be a place like St. Louis.
Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, now that I see this new variant, I'm just like, and again, it's all because of the fucking people who don't want to get vaccinated, who don't want to wear masks. And
Yes and no. I mean, I agree with the whole thing. Everybody needs to get vaccinated and blah, 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 blah. But there's 7 billion people in the world. And there are countries that are just, where people don't walk anywhere because there are so many people that they can't walk. So they just hand things to other people and it just goes to, or they body surf to where they need to go, like, the crowd surfing. I mean, because there's just so many people. So there's going to be variants that come out of places like that. India, that's the name.
you see,
What struck me as kind of odd is that we're saying that they found it in South Africa. But the variant wasn't first found in South Africa. It was detected by South African scientists because they have that capability to detect things in their population because they're on it. We can't detect things as fast as they can. But because it's from Africa now it's all of a sudden scary.
Well, it's exotic.
Yeah, things from Africa.
Well, it's a big, black, scary virus.
It's killer bees. It's not just regular bees, it's killer bees.
Yeah.
No, not killer bees. And you're right, because they didn't even say killer bees. They said Africanized honeybees.
Well, that was the thing, because first way back when it was killer bees, but even now Africanized, like, oh no, that was even scarier to people. Oh my God, they're from Africa.
I mean, the only way they can be worse than Africanized is if they were ghettoized.
So I would be afraid of ghetto bees because they're just
they'll just shoot you. Take your lunch money.
Yeah.
It's I think well, the same thing with Christmas is coming up and people are going to be dealing with stuff. But I mean, I'm getting my booster this coming Friday.
What about you, Raven?
I am boosterized.
You're boosted?
I am boosted. Yes. Oh, it's funny. Okay, so look. No bra today. No makeup. Sweatshirt. I'm like, it's a holiday weekend. Fuck it. This is my holiday weekend look. So
the little minor, probably the worst thing that happened for Thanksgiving is that, and we're talking extremely super, some of our first world problems. So I had Orinoco pie shells in the freezer, but two of the three were broken and were not salvageable. So I got I couldn't find Orinoco in the store, and I got Mary Calendar, and the crust is too thick, and I found it detracted from the pie. But the filling was the best I've made so far.
How are these pie crusts not salvageable?
Well, because it was in pieces, and like I don't make my own pie crust. I buy frozen pie crust, and
Yeah.
it was literally like shattered, where I would have to spend a lot of time pressing and I was like, fuck it, I just want some new stuff.
Huh.
So there's
Do you take it out of the tin that it's in when you bake these pies?
no.
Okay, so you leave it in the tin that it's in. And it keeps the shape of that tin.
Yes.
I just put the pumpkin filling in it, crushed or not, like shattered or not.
No, but it wasn't even like sticking to the sides, like I said, and it was still frozen. And I was gonna have to thaw it out, and then and it literally came in several pieces, and I was like, "Fuck it, I didn't want to deal with it." This is the advantage of not being broke. It's like this is broken. Fuck it, I'm buying a new one.
Sister Danger has elf ears. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
See, I've seen her many
No,
times out here.
I can't say I've ever noticed that about her. But I think you're right.
I've never made a crust. I've not had good luck making like crusts and things like that, and my donuts were too tough. All the things I've made baking wise, like that were flour based. Same thing with pizza. I've never been able to get the right consistency on a pizza crust.
So this year I didn't really do any cooking for Thanksgiving, which was good. I made stuffing. I made 2 batches of stuffing, which is good, and it's fantastic, and it's my mom's recipe. So the fact that I this is actually I've made it several times. It actually came out the best this year, and I was like, yes, I have.
What do you put in? What do you put in it?
Well, okay, so it's a basic bread and sausage mix with onions and celery and thyme and sage and poultry seasoning.
That's a very good. That sounds like an excellent mix.
Actually, when I was sulking with my Boston Market Crap Fest, I saw pictures from Peach on Facebook about your meal, and it made me feel worse.
I'm sorry. We actually ordered it. The only thing I cooked was the stuffing. We ordered it. We picked it up the day before. There's a butcher near here, Sussex Meat Packing, and it was like mashed sweet potatoes, which I don't eat. So, but it was part of the package.
So one of your comments didn't immediately notice that the turkey was sliced turkey, and it skipped their attention. Turkey. It looks like it doesn't taste like cat food.
Ooh, the turkey was really good. Yeah, that person was apparently looking for a bird-shaped object on the table, and it was all sliced, and it was good because what we did was we got all breast meat, so it came sliced.
I really dark meat.
You like the dark meat? Well,
when I think of Africanized honeybees, I just think of flying dildos.
Flying dildo?
Like there's a little bit of it is bee, and then the big shaft of it is just like a giant dildo coming to get you.
Okay, so I missed parts of what you're saying, so all I really got was there's a dildo coming to get you.
Yeah, but it's got wings, and it's like flying through the air. It's going to get you with its giant.
But why is the dildo flying? That's what I'm confused about.
Yeah, I don't get
They're
that
Africanized honeybees. They have
back to the honeybees. Okay.
They have giant schlongs.
Big Africanized honeybees are big black honeybees that are coming after you.
Yeah,
big, black, scary, angry. They're angry. It's an angry black bee.
Yeah.
You're making me laugh harder, Mike, than you intend, because it made me think of incels Incels are obsessed with black dudes and BBC, big black cock. So they all think that they can't get laid because black guys have big dicks and are fucking all the chicks.
There's something to be
But I mean,
said.
that's besides the point.
There's something to be said for BBC. I'm just saying, yeah. Okay.
That's funny.
So, yeah, so I made stuffing, and like we went through it like crazy. So I made another batch today, and went through half of that already. So I'm like, cool, okay. But I'm just really happy that I was able to nail it, so well. So from now on, I'll be making stuffing.
Technically, you made dressing.
Yeah, I've never. Who cares?
I know. I saw you laughed in the thing I said to Pino.
It's like, who cares? Who cares? I know there are people that do that. Like, oh, it's not stuffing if it's not in the bird. It's dressing. It's the same. You know, it could be pre-stuffing.
Oh.
When you make it, it's like it could go in the bird or not. And in this case, so I don't have a bird because it's the day after. But whatever. Still same difference. Whatever.
I do know people who treat them as different things. My cousins in Louisiana treat dinner and supper as if they're two different meals.
Well, they
actually call lunch dinner.
Yeah, I think technically they are.
Supper is after dinner is first, and then supper is later. The whole idea is sucked you over till breakfast. Because back when people would eat dinner like 4 o'clock, then 8, 9 o'clock would roll around, and you'd still be you'd be hungry again. So you have like a little. Because
thinking about like every 4 hours you should have a meal, and then except for your sleeping time, which is 8 hours, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I grew up in communities that didn't treat them as different things.
Right. Well, same.
But dressing in those same Louisiana cousins that I have would be not just one type of thing. There's different. It's like when you go to a Korean restaurant, and they lay out the different kimchis, and each one of them is kimchi, but they're all different things. The dressings are like different things that they all basically are of stuffing like consistency, but different ways to prepare it.
Yeah. Well, see, for me, I actually for stuff that's going to be out of the bird, I actually make it slightly differently, because the stuff in the turkey is going to be picking up the juices from the turkey, whereas the dressing isn't, so that needs more fluid added to it.
So tonight, the stuff that I made today, like when my mom makes her stuffing / dressing, she uses water. I don't. I decided a long time ago I would use chicken broth because you get a lot more flavor that way.
Absolutely.
So that's what I use. But tonight, making the second batch, I didn't have enough chicken broth, so I used turkey gravy that was left over from Thanksgiving dinner.
Yep.
So I used the turkey, and that was really good.
That sounds really good.
That was really good.
So I'm gonna be. So I saved because I used had cooked an actual turkey. So I saved the carcass, and I'm gonna be making turkey stock from that, and then we'll use that with the leftover turkey to make turkey tetrazzini. So for anyone who doesn't know, turkey tetrazzini is a pasta dish with turkey, and Suzanne, actually, you will then use the stock to make the pasta, so it'll actually have turkey flavor in the pasta, and then you make a gravy, like a very light gravy, and you mix that in, and so you par cook the pasta, you mix it all up. It's a casserole, and then on the top you use Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs, preferably panko, and you mix some butter in there to have some consistency. You spread it over the top, and you bake it. And basically you get a nice crust on top, and then you serve it, and it's pretty damn good. And actually, that is one. As much as I prefer stuff, in the bird versus out of the bird, the one nice thing about out of the bird is you get more crustiness because you get that the top will get crisp.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did today. Like after because I mixed up, heated up in the pot, mixed it all up, blah 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 blah, and then I put it into a baking dish and casserole dish and put it in the oven so you get the nice crispy top.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was the best that it's ever come out with me making it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm golden.
Godzilla in the comments says he had a Mexican mole turkey.
Interesting.
I mean, I've had mole, and I've had chicken and mole sauce. It's pretty good, but
well, turkey makes sense because turkey is a North American bird, and chickens are not. So it makes that probably is more ancestral than making it with chicken. And there's lots of different versions of mole. Like I've heard of that. There's literally dozens of varieties of mole. And Sister Danger is still there. I don't know if she's having trouble with the audio or she's just watching us. She looks ominous with the shadows and everything.
I'm here. I'm just messing around with my settings, trying to figure out the best way to do this because I can barely hear you guys.
I don't know if you're going to Spokane or returning from Spokane, but I'm wondering what sort of fairy princess convention there might have been in Spokane.
She's going to, she said originally. I actually feel like more turkey, but we only have enough for the Tetrazzini, so I don't want to eat it up because then we can't have Tetrazzini. And my friend Tracy posted. Apparently, it's a ritual for her. Every Thanksgiving, she goes and looks at videos of turkey frying disasters where you have basically idiots who have no fucking idea what they're doing and burn themselves up or their place. And what gets me is like every year, like every fucking media outlet has a thing that shows you like how to do it without immolating yourself. And yet there's still fucking idiots that like set their house on fire or burn up their pot or burn themselves or whatever. And like I was one of the things she posted. These guys, they had a rig and they're dipping it in slowly, but the oil is so high. I mean, they got the thing in like literally 2 inches and the oil is already starting to splash over. And they still think like, well, okay, and they back off and then they put it in again. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? There's too much fucking oil, you moron. Have you ever heard of Archimedes' principle? You ever get in a bathtub and watch the water again? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, how fucking dumb are people? Oh, yeah, that's another one. But people, they don't thaw out their turkey and they put the turkey in there that's frozen, cold, and there's ice. And that's a fucking oil bomb waiting to happen.
When I had the deli, the deep fryer, we used to put like frozen things in the fryer and just take a few steps back just because, I mean, you would rumble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was just like, how do people not know? I mean, and the thing is, I've fried like 8-9 turkeys in my life, never had a problem because I'm not an idiot.
I've actually never ever made a turkey yet.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually like I said, I didn't cook this year. Only thing I cooked was the stuffing. I'm really intimidated by making the whole meal.
It's really not like even if you're like doing it in the oven. What I do was I brine the turkey for like 4 days, and then you cut up mirepoix, so celery, carrots, and onions, and you put a bed of that on the bottom of your roasting pan. I roast at a fairly low temperature. I go at 250 to start. Actually, I start the oven hot, and then I turn it down to 250. Cook it most of the way, and then when the internal temperatures are like 140, I jack the temperature back up to 400 because this is for browning. But the one other thing I do is I start it breast down, so that protects the breast from burning. The juices run there, and it ends up being juicier. I cooked it on the belly for an hour and a half, and then flip it over, and then put it back in. and if you just get one of the thermometers with the probe that you stick in there, and that you want the breast to be 155 or greater, you want the thigh to be 175 or greater, and as long as low temperatures are good. And I always see the advice is always, oh well, don't hit the bone with the probe. Bullshit. The bone is the coldest part of the fucking thing, and so the meat next to the bone, if the bone is too cold, the meat's going to be raw next to the bone or bleed or whatever. So I actually always hit the bone with the probe, and as long as you do that, as long as your probes are accurate, you can't go wrong.
Okay, so Nicholas Terry, Biden is xenophobic, spelled with an X, dum dum, because he banned travel from South Africa. Okay, so first, just I don't know what show you think this is, so let me save you a little bit of time. Fuck Joe Biden. Does anybody care? Do you care about Joe Biden? Do you care?
I mean, when he's not doing good, fuck him.
I think he's okay,
I'm just
but
confused about the X.
He's not my brother, so I don't give a shit. I mean, like, you don't like him, okay? There's lots of people who don't like him. I don't give a fuck about them either.
So there you go.
I don't understand why they said it's xenophobic with an X. Xenophobic is normally spelled with an X.
Yeah.
No one spelled it wrong in the chat, so it's not. I don't know who they're calling dum dum.
Biden didn't just ban travel from South Africa. He banned it from some countries bordering South Africa as well. But so did other countries that are far more progressive than us, especially on that front of racism. They're all afraid of that one particular variant getting out before we understand it.
Right. All the places where the variant showed up, and Israel did too. So do you hate Israel then?
Well,
and there's a big difference between doing a ban based on where the disease actually is, and just like, oh well, we don't like Muslims, or we're afraid of Muslims, so we're not going to let anyone from a Muslim country. Mind you, Muslim countries have Christians in them too, but we're not going to let anyone. No one can come in from that country. So there's a big difference.
Your nose is pierced. I did not know that.
What?
That's not new.
I never noticed the nose piercing.
My nose piercing?
Yeah, well, we just got a close up. And I was like, oh, there it is.
Well, I'm glad it was the side of my nose and not like my upper nostril. Who knows? Maybe I've got boogies and don't even know it.
You definitely have boogies.
Yeah, no, it was the side.
Yeah, I've had my nose pierced for, I don't know. I'm not even going to count that far. My nose and my belly button.
My daughter's boyfriend has his name is Brandon. He has a "Let's Go Brandon" sticker on his car.
Oh, lovely. Well, the thing is, what gets me about that, I don't really, obviously, people don't like him, whatever. I don't care. But it's like, well, then be honest and just say fuck Joe Biden if you don't like Joe Biden. Just don't be fucking.
Raven, when you said my daughter's boyfriend has a and then stopped, there's a whole bunch of things that I could have filled in there that would be terrible, like AIDS, right? But then when you said, "I fuck Joe Brandon on this," oh my gosh, no, please no. It's so much worse.
I mean, I know that he's an asshole. It's just, it is what it is.
Look, somebody put "Let's Go Brandon" in the chat because they don't like saying "fuck Joe Biden." I don't see what the problem with saying "fuck Joe Biden" is.
It is so immature. It's the most ridiculous thing. I mean, I see it all over the place, and it's people online there, and it's just like, why? If you don't like Joe Biden, why use code? Just say "fuck Joe Biden." I have no problem saying "fuck Donald Trump." Fuck Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I have no problem saying "fuck Joe Biden." Fuck Joe Biden. They all suck. They all suck. They're not all the same, but they all suck.
There's different levels.
So, in answer to your previous question, Copter Hawk, yes, I do make soup with the leftovers. Although, like I said, there's not going to be enough to make. I mean, I'm going to make stock. I don't think there's enough meat left to make soup and make the turkey tetrazzini, and turkey tetrazzini's got to be priority.
Are you thinking about maybe coming over to the dark side of the force and picking up some on sale turkeys tomorrow, so you can do it all?
Yeah, actually, because like I said, because I mean, basically cooking a turkey is not hard. Well, the most onerous part is if you brine. Like I said, it's not hard. It's just you got to stick it in there and wait for a few days. But then, then cutting up the veg, which you're doing a rough chop, so that's easy. And so actually, what we did, we I've done the whole flipping the turkey thing before, but if you try to flip it while it's stuffed, it's a huge mess. So Suzanne had the great idea this year. It's like, hey, let's not stuff it until you flipped it over. I'm like, why the fuck didn't I think of that? So that's what we did this time. And flipping it was easy, and then she stuffed it and put it back in the oven. And so the only thing is with turkey sandwiches, though, I've never really done much with that. And people do the thing like where they put everything on, they put the stuffing on, and then they put cranberry sauce. And I don't like cranberry sauce, so. Yeah, although I will say my wife's cranberry relish is better than the shit you get in a can. A lot better.
Joe, turkey sandwiches are my jam, and it's all about the mayonnaise and salt mixing together. And the turkey, mayonnaise, and salt are the only things I need on that sandwich. Everything else goes in if it's there.
Mayonnaise.
All the leftovers, but like the mayonnaise, like I know how white I found right now.
You're killing me.
The mayonnaise is key, and you have to have Best Foods mayonnaise, not that Hellman's crap. It's the same stuff with a different label on it.
Well, see, the thing is,
we're on the other side of Mississippi here.
See, if I made a turkey sandwich, though, I would put gravy on it, not mayonnaise.
It's raining in where we are now. All I know is you guys are talking about turkey, and I literally have zero to say about making any kind of Thanksgiving dinner meal.
Last frying a turkey is amazing.
What did you have a Thanksgiving meal?
Did I?
Yeah.
I went out to dinner with my dad and my brother.
That's cool.
Cool.
Are those good people?
That depends on how you define good.
From your perspective.
I mean, what?
From your perspective.
Have I ever what?
From your perspective.
Are they good people? I mean, they don't do terrible things my brother gets in fights a lot, but I mean, other than that, like bar fights, but other than that, they don't do terrible things. But I feel like my dad is old and is a Donald Trump supporter and has very bad vocal, like he says bad things, in my opinion. But he doesn't, at least for my whole life that I've known him, seem to actually act upon any of the rhetoric that is sort of like Fox News that sort of spews out of his mouth. It's like he just parrots the BS that you hear on Fox News. But when it comes to like behaving towards other people, he is a decent person. Like, he's not a douche. He doesn't anything like that. But if you start talking politics with him, then suddenly it's just like everything is Joe Biden's fault right now. And, the last time it was like Clinton's fault or whoever, Obama's fault, whatever. It's always the Democrats' fault. Let's just put it that way. And I don't know. I don't watch Fox News, but whatever it is, I mean, if something goes bad, it's because we terrible Democrats up there in Seattle in this blue state voted it in, and it's all because of us.
There's 50 other states.
I mean, it's terrible.
49. We don't count Puerto Rico.
So, but I guess that I just like kind of chalk it up to being, like a 70-year-old dude, right? Like, he's just an old guy. Like, he makes, like, when we're over there, right? We go in the kitchen. He wants to give me his old 35 millimeter camera that he had from when we were kids that he used to take all of our on from everything we did growing up, right? Wants to give me the camera, but I'm like, Dad, I am not going to use that. I'm sorry. So I would like to take it, but it's not going to do me any good. So no. And he's like, okay, well, come make yourself useful other than being a daughter. And he wants me to come out on the back patio with him and carry wood into the house and put it into the wood bin. Those are the kinds of things that he says. I mean, he's just saying like honorary things. I don't think they're great things. And if that wasn't my dad, I would not tolerate to spend time any more than I had to around somebody that said things like that. But I mean, he doesn't treat me terribly. He just says bullshit things. Does that make him a terrible person? Some people would say yes. I don't think so. But, I think it just makes him a grumpy old man that's from a very different generation.
Well, did you have a good time at dinner for Thanksgiving?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually hard to talk to my dad now because he's literally so deaf that my brother and I, who were sitting like front seat, back seat in the car while my dad drove to the restaurant, my brother was just like talking to me and my dad had no idea that my brother was like right there talking to me. Like, couldn't hear him. I mean, he's so deaf that really it's best to just text him. And so it was hard because like you don't want to be in a restaurant and be like, Dad, how's the meal? You don't. But it's kind of what you have to do. And so, but then my brother, he has kind of his own issues. So even though everybody gets along and whatnot, I think my brother was having a hard time with the day. And he was, I don't know. He was having some kind of kept saying he needed a cigarette and he didn't have any cigarettes. And I don't know. So that was the thing. I mean, he wasn't mad at anybody about that, but he was kind of having a Nick fit. And he had not paid his phone bill, so they shut his phone off. So he was using his girlfriend's phone. And I swear to God, this happens. And I was like, it took me, I didn't even realize what was happening until after the fact. But so he's on, like when you call on the phone, right? And you get the automated voice message system to like pay a bill, right? So he calls the little phone company to pay the bill while we're sitting there at the table. And of course, it's an automated phone thing. And the first thing they always ask you, is if you want to continue in English, press 1 and para blah, 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 Espanol, marque nueve or whatever they say, right?
Right.
So, so it goes into that thing and he's like, one. And then he's like, English, motherfucker, do you speak it? Says this out loud into his phone, but his phone is kind of away from his face. And this is just as our waitress, who is Mexican, arrives at our table and is trying to ask us what we want to drink. And I was like, oh my God, I thought he was talking to her. And I was like, is this happening? And then I realized that he was just like talking to the automated voice system on his phone and he was irritated with it. But how's she supposed to know that? And I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. So that was, I don't know, that was weird, But I mean, we all got our food and we ate dinner just fine and everybody enjoyed their meal, No, my dad insisted that nobody bring up Joe Biden for the duration of the day. I was so happy to hear that because I was like, I do not want to fucking hear this bullshit for like the rest of the day. So I was just like, yeah, no, I'm in. No politics. No politics is good because there actually isn't really political talk. There's just a whole lot of yelling about how Democrats are bad. And Yeah, there's no debate. It's not a discussion. It's just like I said. It's just like a straight from the mouths of Fox, you know. So
Democrats are bad, Kay.
but it was. I haven't seen my dad in a minute. He actually gave me one of the elk hides that we had 2 elk hides that we used to sleep with, and he gave me a whole bunch of bones. I wish I could send you guys the pictures. Because we weren't gonna. But
I didn't. When you said elk hides, but when you first ran together, and I'm like, "What's an elk hide?" And I'm like, "Oh, elk hide."
yeah, like an elk. Well, he goes hunting every year, and we weren't gonna do Thanksgiving this year, but he got a deer early, so he came home a couple days early, and he brought home a whole bunch of deer bones for me. And so since yesterday, we've been boiling these enormous deer bones at home and cleaned them off a little bit before we got in the car to head to Spokane. And so the house kind of smelled a little gross because boiling 5-day-old deer meat off of leg bones is disgusting. So it smelled pretty terrible. But yeah, so but I'm gonna have some awesome deer bones to do cool art with. That's very exciting. And then I got to bring home one of the elk. Had one, my brother and I, on our beds, and my brother, even though the thick one is technically mine, my brother wanted that one, so I took the thin one, and my brother took the thick one, and yay! So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. It'll probably become one of those cool gear things.
Oh, you're pixelating.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys? Yep.
Yeah, you're kind of turning into a Britney Spears singer.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, there you are. We lost you for a second. Oh, we lost you again.
Yeah, I think maybe her dad, should turn down the volume on Fox News. It wouldn't hurt his hearing so much.
Or his
Tucker
thinking.
Carlson's a blowhard.
It wouldn't hurt his thinking so much.
That too. My dad actually famously, for years, had a rear projection TV screen that looked like somebody had taken their fingers and dipped them in Crisco, and then took 3 fingers and put them on the edge of the screen and just went like that.
Oh God!
Right, and the way those 3 lines got there, every time there was a commercial that faded to white, you could see that, and then a line across the bottom of the TV. That was the Fox News little logo spinning around.
Oh God!
And then the news ticker on the bottom of the screen had burned in as well. So he finally got a new TV, and my brother-in-law went over there and set the contrast so that it would not burn into the screen. It's not a rear projection, big old honking nightmare thing either. He had a 60-inch rear projection, which takes up a lot of living room.
Yeah, those things are huge. It's like, because like I forget where the fuck I was. Like it was only like maybe 2 years ago, and they still were trying to sell them. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Why, when you can get like a 60-inch LC flat screen LCD or LED that's like weighs like 8 pounds, and it's like super thin. I always felt those rear projections too, like the video quality was always weird.
Yeah. They took a lot of calibrating if you're going to get the video just right. The picture on those, you had different things that you had to set up correctly, or else it would be off a little bit. Each one of them had a panel that most people didn't even know how to find it. But that panel would have little potentiometers on it, and you could, tweak things and get it just right. Usually it would be behind a speaker like screen, like it looked like a third speaker.
I don't know if either of you are old enough to remember console TVs.
So
Laughing.
growing up, console TVs were actually like the TV table beneath the TV that we had that was new. You just put like a tablecloth over it and then put your new TV on top.
Yeah.
You grew up with the great big console TV. My mom had a ceramic bust of Elvis on the top, and it was a big rectangular button up in the corner to turn it on. And my brother and sister used to fight all the time over the TV, and then they ended up breaking that button. So we had to use needle nose pliers to turn the TV on and off.
There was we had one like we didn't have it long, or at least we probably had it for a long time, and then I only knew of it for a little while when I was a kid. But we had one that it also had a built-in record player, and I remember something broke, and my grandfather got a pickup truck, and we brought it to a place in Cherry Hill for some reason to fix it, which is a long fucking drive from central New Jersey, like an hour and a half. And whatever it was, they couldn't fix it. So then we got another TV, and this wasn't a console, but it was still really big, and it was on legs. And I remember as a kid, I ended up wrapping myself up into a blanket, and it was rolling around the living room, and I hit the TV a little too fast, and it actually fell over on me, and the tube broke. The only thing that kept me from getting cut to ribbons is because I was wrapped up in the blanket. And so that was the end of that TV. then we ended up getting the first TV that had a remote, and the remote was fucking huge. This big silver box with like 4 buttons, and with 1 red button and 3 red. And it was like, and when the TV changed channels, it still had a rotary dial on it. So every time it was like, the motor would engage, would like go in, turn, and come back. So it was like, ka-chunk chunk, ka-chunk chunk. Hey,
so our first remote control TV had a wire on the remote, and you just it was still obviously mechanical, but you could do it from wherever you were sitting.
Yeah.
My grandparents had a VCR that worked the same way, where the remote for the VCR was on a wire.
The first cable TV we had a tether. So there was a box on the TV, and then there was a tether, and the box had a slide switch. Well, not slide, but it had a rotary switch with 3 positions, and then it had I forget how many buttons across. It was like 13 buttons across. So you had 39 channels, and so you had to hit this and this. And I figured out that if you press the buttons on either side of a channel you weren't paying for, it would come in for a little while. So our cable company had carried WHT for a while. If you remember that WHT, it was Wometco Home Theater they had movies during the day and had porno at night. And if you push both buttons in and on either side and latch them in, it would stop scanning, doing the weird shit, and you go watch it. So I remember, but it would stop working after a little bit, so you had to hit that button and then go back and hit the other 2 buttons again to get it to come in. So I remember watching porno on that way.
So I had a similar setup to that. Mine was my dad brought home a Korean TV when he came home from Korea in the service, and it had a fine tuning thing on it. And the way that our cable company would scramble shows on the pay-per-view channel, be they porn or professional wrestling, which was what got me interested in descrambling it. They would move the signal back and forth on frequency, and so we had 2 TVs. One was just a regular American TV, and every so often you got a free little sample of what the show was, and then it would go back to scrambled, and then we'd have to turn our eyes to the other TV that we set to the other frequency that they were sending it to. So we just had to look back and forth between the 2 TVs. for pay-per-views.
So okay, so a couple of things. First, I want to say hi to Badger, Brian J.
Hello.
Hello. And the other thing was we had so there was the big console TV. It was like a 25-inch, 30-inch screen, which back then was a huge TV. We had a 25-inch screen console TV, and it was like big box with a ceramic bust of Elvis. And then on the other side of the room, there was another console unit that was a stereo. And it was an 8-track player, an AM/FM radio, and a record player. And big felt orange fabric across the front to cover the speakers, and great big lid opened up like a coffin, great big thing. And back then, it was a big deal to have like a media center, because after those came the rack systems, right? And it was like a media center. You had all your stuff all at once. It was a media center. My computer does all of that stuff except for the 8-track. Yeah, and then some. So.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't mind me asking the culturally insensitive question, Brian, did you have a good Thanksgiving dinner?
It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and you didn't provide Thanksgiving dinner for your wife?
We were too busy doing English things.
Well, she's a true traitor then for ditching Thanksgiving traditions.
No, she's actually trying to Americanize various parts of my family.
Cool.
Well, if she didn't introduce them to Thanksgiving, when was she going to?
Well, you see, here's the thing, Mike, and this is something that you should remember if you were paying attention. And I always tell you, pay attention, it works. All right? We've been moving for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So we haven't really had a lot of energy for doing anything other than moving boxes, opening boxes, closing boxes, shifting boxes, and building furniture, constructing this, putting that up. And we've both been sort of crashing on and off because we're both disabled, again, as you know, which you've been paying attention.
So instead of a Thanksgiving American tradition, you had a Boxing Day English tradition?
No, that'll come next month. That's Christmas. No, what we did was we had a good old-fashioned health crash, which was great. And, we had an excuse to do nothing and just lie in bed and rest. And it was good. And it was fun.
So, speaking of Americanizing Britons, when my wife was on an exchange program to Oxford, when they were talking, so this is like in the 70s, early 70s. At the time, like Brits did not eat ribs. So her fellow, it wasn't really or it wasn't a big thing.
It wasn't
anyway.
a big thing, but we had them and we ate them. Yeah, we just didn't sort of celebrate them, as it were.
Well, the thing is also apparently you guys cook them very differently than we do. So she said there were other Americans there at Oxford at the time. And so she would go down the butcher's and for like 10p a pound, she'd get like, the butcher would probably get was like, what are you gonna do with these? And they're like, oh, trust us. And like her fellow students were like, what are you doing with those? And we're like, watch. And then, they would barbecue them up or whatever. And it was like, whoa, these are good.
Yeah, I can actually see that happening in the 70s. One of the things you got to remember about this country, especially in the 60s and 70s, they're sort of like post-war years still. Rationing didn't disappear until the early 60s. I think it was 63, maybe 65, I'm not sure. So, the make, do, and mend of our generation is that was still a thing. So, yeah, we wouldn't have let ribs go to waste. We'd have done something with them, and I can remember my grandmother saying, yeah, like you said, butchers practically give them away because it's not a good cut of meat. But it was a very good way, if you're poor, of surviving and having meat in your diet.
Well, but
So-
that's the reason why she was surprised it wasn't more prevalent, because I mean, you guys eat offal, and yet ribs were not a popular thing.
Well, some people eat offal. My mum certainly loves tripe. I can't stand it. She tried to feed it to us once. Tripe, and what was the other thing?
Do you eat kidneys?
Dripping. Yeah, dripping. Apparently, one of the things that she had when she was a kid growing up was basically lard with bread dripped in it. And yeah, exactly. But the difference with dripping is that you have various little brown bits, which are like bits of meat, bits of gravy, So you do have sort of a meaty taste to it, rather than it just being pure grease.
Right.
But
Well, I guess
it was a source of food.
Well, if you fry the bread, I can see that, because you can fry bread. That's good. But like,
Yeah.
do you ever? I know a lot of people eat like steak and kidney pie. Do you eat kidney?
Oh, I love steak and kidney pie, but I can't actually stand kidneys on their own. In a pie like that, they're okay. They're good.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like a pie with a surprise. Am I going to get a bit of steak? Am I going to get a bit of kidney? And it's sort of like, do I risk the nest bite? But yeah, no, steak and kidney pies are good.
Well, there, and I'm sure Brian's aware of this dish. I hate saying it because it has a totally different context here.
Okay.
But there's
Faggots?
Yes, it's a
They're
meatball.
great. I love them. Yes.
Yeah, and they're another one. They can be made with offal, but they don't have to be. And I've had that. I was at Warwick Castle, I think it was, and like Warwick Castle is further up. It was at one of the castles, maybe Corfe Castle. They had them, and it was really good. And theirs were just ground pork. There was no offal in it.
What were they called?
Yeah, it was called faggots.
Oh, they were called. Oh, you are right. Sorry, yes, faggots.
Yeah,
I
but
thought we
it
moved
was
on.
like, it was a nice pork meatball and gravy. It was nice.
Yeah, faggots. Brains faggots, which is doubly confusing. Brains faggots are particularly delicious. There are other brands, obviously, but they have a particular recipe that they use. It's nice and spicy, and it's yep. I don't know. All I can say, same with Marmite. You bite in and see. It's a bit like haggis as well. Some people hate it, some people love it. I happen to be in the latter group.
I like sausage rolls. Sausage rolls are inspired.
They are, aren't they?
They are. I had them the first time I had sausage rolls. This was on our 2014 trip. We flew to London, got our rental car, and the first place we went to was the Tank Conservancy at the museum at Bovington. And they had in the cafeteria there, they had sausage rolls, and for anyone who doesn't know, they were a type of British sausage in a puff pastry, and they're really, really good.
There's only one improvement I'd make to the sausage roll.
What's that?
And instead of using the sausage meat that we use, to de-skin a bratwurst and use that.
That would be rather good.
That would be excellent.
Now, for anyone who's not British who doesn't know, the British sausages tend to be sage sausages, which we generally, the only time we really have
it's
sage
the bread
sausages
content.
here, like American
bread
breakfast
content.
wings are sage sausages.
Yeah,
Would you say,
it's more the bread content. We have a much higher bread content in our sausages than you do, which tends to make them more pasty.
So my stuffing, actually, I use sage sausage. So
yeah, it's a good combo. Well, it was, I think it's because sage in general is great in stuffing, and definitely goes with sausage and stuff.
I've taken a liking to burning sage in the bathroom after doing bathroom things. It's quite pleasant having sage drift through the house.
Nice.
Burnt sage is a nice smell.
Well, you can get bundles of white sage, and
That's what we're using.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we're using.
That's a smudge. Smudges are
Yes,
typically
that's
white.
right. Smudge sticks.
I used to dabble in Wicca, so
Yeah, so did Exiled back in the day,
back
and
in the day.
yeah, white sage. She did a whole cleansing ritual. It was nice. It was very atheistic. I loved it.
Yeah, I used to do that too. I used to do that too. My ex boyfriend's mother thought I was crazy because I would sage the house.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cute. I think it's kind of cute. Um, but I can understand, just sort of, just brushing up the house with a nice smell of sage, burnt sage throughout. It psychologically and physiologically, it does have a very cleansing effect. So, yeah, I can call that a legit thing.
Yeah, it's
In a
definitely
way, I think that it's kind of explanatory of the California wildfires that they're trying to smudge away the Trump presidency.
Did they really suffer from the Trump presidency? I don't think so.
California, yeah,
Yeah.
because actually, there were money that was supposed to be allocated for actually forestry for fire prevention, and it was stripped away and blown on.
Really? That was stripped away?
Yes, it
Mhm.
was.
Damn. Well,
And,
California's
and as
got
and as a
the
result, during this time of increasing climate change effects and fires related thereof, it
It's
made the
it's
fires worse.
it's their fault for not raking the trees.
well, I mean that aside, I can remember. Yeah, I do remember the. I was speaking to a European, and they had forests, and they just sort of brushed it and sort of looked after the ground. You look after the ground, you look after the trees. So screw that, Um, but I would have thought, with the isn't California the biggest economy over there in your
The fourth largest economy in the world.
yeah. So one would have thought that California itself would have thought, okay, we can afford to do this. We don't necessarily need a federal handout.
Well, the problem, well, the problem is there's a lot of land that's considered federal land, so it's actually the federal government's responsibility to do it. The other problem too for California, is the way they do funding is kind of bizarre. They do these they have these ballot initiatives, and when they do funding via that ballot initiative, the legislature can't like unilaterally change it. So, and this was a problem a few years back. When their economy was a bit weaker, that they were heading toward an economic abyss because there were a lot of spending measures that were put in place by ballot measure, and the legislature literally did not have the power to cut them off. They couldn't change taxes without a ballot. It was really kind of dumb. And basically, California was a good example as why direct democracy is a bad idea, because their state was run very much like that. And then they were able to pass a bunch of things and get some things done to change things. And now their economy is doing great. But yeah, it was at the time was not as readily available. But they also don't
Yeah,
have much free cash as well. It's kind of
I
weird.
mean, I do understand. Yeah, I understand. That okay, yeah, you got a swathe of land that's federal responsibility. So yeah, let the feds take care of it. But at the end of the day, if it was on my back door and the feds weren't doing anything and I had the
The state
cash,
doesn't have jurisdiction over the land. That's the problem.
Joe, that was a
yeah.
very
But if the
interesting
fire is
look
going to burn my house down,
Right, but it'd be literally illegal to do it because it's
damn,
federal land.
damn, things that
It's
suck in America.
it's controlled by the Bureau of Land Management, so basically you can't do it.
So it was Trump's fault for not raking the forest.
Right. I found what
Sounds
should be a
legit.
good recipe for sausage rolls, like actually making the sausage.
Yeah, I mean, flaky pastry's flaky pastry, isn't it? You just sort of lay down a layer of butter, lay down a layer of flour and water, and lay down a layer of butter, and so on.
There's a variety, like a brand. I forget the name of the brand, but there's a store near me that sell. It's a liquor store, but they sell other specialty items as well. They have a cheese shop section in there as well, and they carry this puff pastry that's amazing. It's using like European butter between the layers, and it's like really high quality. So it's very buttery and very tasty, and I think that would make like the most amazing sausage rolls in the universe.
So
I'm
can
guessing
I go ahead?
I'm just gonna, I was just saying, I'm guessing it's not Pillsbury because that's a brand you'd know, isn't it?
Right,
Immediately.
right, exactly.
So there's something to the raking the forest bullshit, but of course Trump twisted the fuck out of it. Yeah, I don't know, because forest fires are actually, when it comes to like debris on the ground in the forest, the way that gets taken care of is a forest fire. Like a forest fire is a very natural, normal thing to happen in forests, and that is how a lot of that debris, that would be raked. That's how nature takes care of it. That's a normal, natural thing.
Well, see, one of the things that the BLM actually does, and the Bureau of Land Management, not Black Lives Matter, is they do at times do controlled burns. And this way it's like contained, and that's one way to get rid of, like Raven said, is one way to get rid of this stuff is they actually have a purpose set fire, but it's under control and it's managed so it doesn't get out. And so they do it at times of the year that's not likely to spread.
There's another reason why they do that as well, because it's not just, clearing away the old. The burn actually converts a lot of the debris into carbon and various nitrates.
Yes.
Various other organic molecules that are necessary for the ground to stay fertile. So there's a lot of reasons why you have to, you have to make sure that process happens in some way.
It does one other thing too, is that there's certain, at least I don't know about deciduous trees, but certainly with conifers, that the heat of the fire causes certain trees to eject their seeds. And so that they fall into that enriched soil, as you referred to,
some
Brian,
of them.
and then they actually plant, and then that's where the new seed comes, where the new seed.
So yeah, I mean, like under normal circumstances, even like a natural forest fire that isn't people like freak out, right? It's not a bad thing. This is a good thing. It's part of a normal, healthy, normal, natural forest. These things happen because they need to happen. It's part of a healthy ecosystem. The problem is that's not what's happening now. The forest fires we're having now aren't normal or natural or healthy for the forest.
No.
But I mean, in general, the whole like raking of the forest, that's normal for a forest to burn every now and then, because the burn is good for the forest. Believe it or not, in the long run, it's good for the forest. So
Yeah, what's unnatural about it is the scale at which it's happening.
Right.
Because instead of getting small patches of fire, which is good and natural, what you're having is entire forests catching fire at once, and that is what,
right.
Yeah, they're not
They're
burning.
not burning in a natural way. They're being started by gender reveal parties rather than a natural process.
Yeah, and I think it's certain species of pine cone that need heat to actually open.
Yeah, Propter Hawk says jack pines.
There you go.
Yeah. I was pretty sure it was certain conifers. Yeah, I mean the whole gender reveal party to me is such a fucking. I mean, like, okay, if you want to have a party, whatever, but like, when did it get tied with like exploding things? Like, well, let's blow shit up, and like, what the fuck? I'll be right back.
I don't. Yeah, this whole gender reveal party craze. I don't actually. I get it. I've been a parent. I understand the thing, but it's just like. Seriously, I mean, yeah, okay, it's great, but the whole neighborhood, in fact, the whole city doesn't need to know.
I mean, one of the reasons why, again, everybody's different. My experience in the world and the people that I know, the reason why you have baby showers and gender reveal parties and on all those things is an excuse to get together and get gifts. That's what it's about. It's about getting gifts. That's why they do it. You invite all these people that are going to get gifts.
It's the latest Hallmark reason.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the whole idea is to get money or to get gifts and all that from all of your friends and family.
We've squeezed as much as we can out of the existing holidays. Let's do something else.
Yeah. So I mean,
okay. So at what point do we have to get all the way down to successful poop reveal parties before we call a stop to this?
It's consumerism, exactly. It's insane. It's crazy, and it's just like the people who are getting into the most trouble over these things are people that can afford to have pyrotechnics as part of their reveal party. So it's like, you don't need to do this. The money that you're spending on the party is going to be about what you bring in gifts and stuff anyway. So why are you even doing this? And besides the fact that, it's not even a gender reveal, it's a biological sex reveal. And those are two different things entirely. It's such a stupid thing.
My child's going to have a penis. Yay.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like a kickback thing. Do you know what I mean by that? A kickback thing?
No.
Okay. All right. Now, there is a stage you go through when you're a teen. Yeah, it's like you become the rebellious teen. It's like, I don't want to follow your rules anymore. I can make up my own rules. Yeah, and it's like a kickback against the authority, which is your parents. A kickback against something that's prevailing. Yeah, it's like at the moment we've got all of this. Well, I mean, since what, 2015 or whatever,
You mean like
we've been dominated by this discussion on gender and biology and this, that, and the other. So I'm wondering if it's a kickback against that. It's like, we like our sexual polarity. We're going to celebrate it.
There is gender reveal parties aren't all that new, though. I know they've been around a long time. What's new about them are the lengths that these parents go to make the reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, they just said, hey,
was that Nick Suter? Hey, Nick, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, if there was just like streamers and yay, we're gonna, we're having a girl, boy, whatever, blah blah blah. That'd be fine.
That would be fine.
Blow shit up.
Yeah, when you're using pyrotechnics or
I figured it out.
And you would think
I figured it out.
You would think after the first few times that people started major fires to do it, that somebody would say, maybe that's not a good idea.
I figured it out. It's TikTok LARPing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's TikTok LARPing.
It's ridiculous. It's so crazy. It's crazy.
So, Raven, I got this genius idea. You're not
I should have a gender reveal party for myself?
No. This is even better. Hear me out. You're not going to actually throw the party. It's just a threat of a party. Just to piss off your brother, right? You make an invitation card to a gender reveal party for one of your existing children. And inside of it say that my child has decided to be a gender. Come find out which gender my child decided to be. And send it to your brother and see how much he flips out.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. He wouldn't understand.
Yeah, but Mike would get one hell of a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
You're such a troll, Mike.
Oh, speaking of trolling, I got people with the whole mandatory vacations thing again.
Again, I saw that.
So months ago, I wrote on Facebook that I am in 100% support of mandatory vacations for everyone. And so many people read vacations as vaccinations and had to chime in that that I don't know what I'm talking about, that they wouldn't go that far. And, I need to pump the brakes a little bit. And I'm like, wait, you're not in support of vacation? Well, I pulled it out again. Like months later, I put the same thing on Facebook, and I caught even more people. I put it on my family Facebook, and I caught the same cousin twice. My cousin John.
I remember seeing that post and laughing. I put a little laugh on it because I remember seeing that and thinking,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, okay.
It was just beautiful.
I was going to post something, but I was reading the comments and I thought, no, this is too funny.
It's my chair that needs oil. Hey, but you know what? I do have an Amazon wish list, and there's a new chair on there, and that chair wouldn't squeak. So it is Christmas.
I think I've got an Amazon wish list as well somewhere. I don't know if it's public though. I don't think it is.
I love this comment. Not without their consent.
For the benefit of those in the chat, I'm going to just post my.
No, not a beanbag chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
no, they rustle.
That post that you just posted there, that Joe, reminded me of something else. Everybody's opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they always stink.
Yep. Yes, I have the power. I used it earlier to dispense with a troll. The best part is, like, I didn't even engage him at that point. It was just like he kept saying ridiculous shit, and then I was just like, yeah, you're out.
The worst thing is unsolicited opinion pics.
They really are the worst.
Yeah, like, I'll never understand the dick pic. Like, even anyone who likes looking at dicks, who likes to be around dicks, I just can't imagine that, like, they're gonna see a particular dick and go, "Oh, I gotta fuck that dick." I just don't think it works like. I mean, it could be wrong. I'm not into dicks, but I mean, I just can't imagine it. Like, well, dude, I wasn't gonna even talk to you, but you go that dick. Of course I'm fucking.
Okay, well, now I've seen some dick pics where I go.
Yeah, impressive. But
I was going to say, Joe, you'd have to talk to somebody that's into penises, wouldn't you, and find out exactly how that works.
I mean, I've never seen one and thought, oh man, I got to be with them. But I mean, there are some where it's just like. And then there's others. It's like, why did you even bother taking the picture?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean,
So-
I tried to think of the opposite way. Like, okay, like if I got Bieber shots, I mean, the thing is that, like, but I need to see them to know I wanted to have sex.
Well, I mean, I've never owned horses, but I have ridden them, and there have been times when I've walked or driven past, a field, and I've thought, "Ooh, yeah, I'd like to see how that, how that horse rides." I'm guessing it's, if there is any legitimacy to it, then it's kind of akin to that. It's like, "Ooh, I wonder what that feels like." So I don't know. I can see that there may be some validity to the concept, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, there's just some that it's just, oh, okay, that's interesting pick.
I mean, the whole idea of porn is like, the pictures of I'd do that.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of porn, isn't it? So it's just porn, but from a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, but see, like with porn though, like usually you see more than just the genitals. There's usually like the body and the face, and
Yeah.
So I actually my on Twitter, I have a pinned tweet that says if you call me a faggot, I'll send you a dick pic.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And do many people call you a faggot?
When I first posted the tweet, yeah, there was a bunch.
Did you send out many dick pics?
You know what? I didn't send mine. I would find random ones on.
Just random ones off the
Yeah.
internet.
Some of them were nice.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the dick pic is unsolicited porn at the end of the day. Let's face it. Yeah, you know.
Well, I just put this. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought, Brian.
No, I was just going to say, the only real difference that I can see between porn and what would you use, offence, is that you go looking for porn. You don't go looking for offence.
I was about to come out of the gates just faggity, fag. And then you said, but it's not my dick. And I'm like, oh, crap. That ruins the whole point.
Yeah. Okay, so if anybody ever wanted a dick pic from me, I would have to find out if they want, like from when. Was there like a time period? Because it's not the same now as it used to be.
Undergone changes.
But that's true for all of us.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, hormones have a pretty,
Oh, yes, of course.
effect on the male member.
I was not accounting for the hormones. How's the transition going, by the way? I haven't seen you for a while. How are you taking to everything?
All right, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I legally changed my name, so my name is Raven now.
No, I was thinking more physiologically. I mean, are you
Well,
still...
I mean, everybody, you've witnessed, everybody that knows me online has witnessed at least parts of the transition, because I've been transitioning for many years.
Yeah.
So, like, now in this whole accelerated, it's going good. It's going good. There's things I don't know. I mean, there are things that I have no problem talking about, and other people kind of feel uneasy about, or, and then there's things I'll talk about that people are like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that kind of stuff. It's nobody's business, and blah, 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 whatever.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have a chat offline sometime. We haven't done that for a while.
So people tell you that you shouldn't talk about things about you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, as you say that it's not, it's not really a good thing to talk about things like surgeries and stuff. And a lot of trans people get all upset about that stuff.
I don't understand that myself.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah,
I can understand if somebody doesn't want that for themselves, but they shouldn't be against other people.
Right, but like if I had a bad kidney, then have that removed. If I have an organ that I don't want, need, or isn't working correctly, remove it.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing. It's an organ being removed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's just touched on something there that sort of runs a little deeper for me, and I have a little. I do. It's a personal bugbear. So if anybody out there wants to ruffle my feathers, listen up. It's this whole concept of I'm not allowed to talk about something that I want to talk about because somebody else doesn't want me to. And it's about me, and it's something that I want to discuss, be it for, bringing awareness to an issue or whatever reason it is that I want to discuss it. Yeah. But because it's unpopular, I'm getting pressure from outside not to discuss it. That, to me, I find abominable. especially when we have this internet with the so-called air quote free speech platforms.
So there's a lot of things that certain demographics um, find, disturbing, and because they're disturbed by it, they want everyone within their demographic to kind of maintain certain things. And like I have no problem talking about I call it my birth name. I have no problem talking about that, and I know a lot of trans women are really bothered by for themselves or seeing other trans people be okay with it. And it's like, I understand why some people, trans women, are they feel harmed by the name. I understand why they feel harmed if people talk about it. I understand why they're uncomfortable. I get all that, but it doesn't apply to me. So I'm okay with it, and I would just expect that everybody else be okay with stuff that concerns me that I'm okay with. So you're muted, Joe, but I'm sure what you're saying is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand if somebody's saying, like, particularly if people get, misgendered a lot, or if family and friends or supposed friends and family, use their old name, obstinately and in a way that's hurtful. I can get someone really just like, hey, I don't even want to mention because it brings up bad things. But it's like I've never like. Well, okay. Here's one thing. I detest. I know that this idea that supposedly black people saying the N-word disarms it. I don't agree, because I found that even the people who use it to one another, if a white person says it to them in anger, they're still upset. So I was like, well, it clearly didn't disarm shit. I think it's a form of mental colonialism. I think it needs to go, and it provides a visceral response within me when I hear it. That said, other black people who do use it, I don't take issue with them. Like, even if I disagree that in their use of it, I don't tell them they shouldn't be saying it or shouldn't be using it. If they ask my opinion, I'll tell them. But I don't say, well, you say this word around me because I don't like it. Like, well, okay, I'm in a community where some people do use that word, to us. So and on the flip side, I had people get angry at me because I still use the term mulatto applying to myself. Because that was the term when I was a kid. I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me. And I won't call anybody else that, because I don't know if they're okay with the term or not. But I will use it referring to myself on occasion. But people would giving me shit, and I'm like, look, if you don't want to call yourself, I'll call you a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater if that's what you want me to call you. But don't fucking tell me how I should or should not refer to myself.
Peach uses the term half breed. She calls herself a half breed. I feel funny just saying that.
That makes me feel a little weird too. But again, that's how she prefers. That's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cute. I think it's a cute term, but I can understand how some people would find it offensive. But if it's a self-identifier, I think it's cute.
Yeah.
So, okay, I wanted to address something that was in the chat before, and before it gets too far away, I got to scroll up and find it now. Proctor Hawk, Have Dick Will Travel series, take pics of their dick alongside world monuments. I think someone should do that also. I think that would be fantastic. I would totally. Yeah, somebody should do that.
I agree. That would be funny.
That would be funny.
It's kind of a take on the traveling teddy bear, isn't it?
Yeah, I also use the term, referring to. I guess I'll refer to myself, and I will refer to black people in general. I will say Negro at times when I feel it's appropriate, and some black people don't like that. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna say that word. You guys can say the N word, and I'm not gonna say Negro. In fact, usually if I'm singing a song where the N word's in there, I will substitute the word Negro in place of, the actual N word.
When talking about the attitudes of some white people, Peach will use the word darky.
Yeah.
To herself.
I use mud people. Well, I was talking to some shithead, and he was saying some racist shit, and he didn't know that I was black. And so then I referred to myself as like, "Oh, you don't know, I'm one of those mud people." And he was just like, and it was funny because he got angry because I knew that he used that term.
Wait.
And so the fact that I knew the term.
Wait.
Yeah, Paul.
You're black? But you're Mexican all this time.
I know that's what Coughlin always jokes about. Like, oh, you do that.
Hey, Paul.
That seems like the only thing I'm not.
Joe,
somebody thought I was black
You're
once.
muted, Paul.
Somebody did actually genuinely think I was black once, but to be fair, they were going purely off the music that they could hear coming through the ceiling. So,
wow.
I thought you were going to say they were looking at your dick there.
that would have been funnier, wouldn't it? I should have gone there. Damn it. Hey, Paul.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Hi.
pretty good.
How's your holiday?
Yeah, it's been going pretty good. I've just been out for dinner with some friends. It's the first time I've been out in a restaurant for, like, in an actual, like, no open windows, no, for a very long time, But, I mean, I've had triple vaccination and I've had COVID, so I feel bulletproof right now, So.
Oh, good. Well, I am going to say hi. I'm not escaping from you, Paul. I literally just popped in. As you can tell, I've got no camera or anything at the moment. This is very rudimentary.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got a cat that's clamoring for attention. We got a cat, by the way. She's adorable. When I've got a camera, I'll introduce you. But so yes, hi, bye, and speak to you soon. Take
Brian.
care.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, Brian. Yeah, friends, I can't stay for very long either because my evening is still in progress. But I just want to check out the vibe of the show, y'all.
Well, I was feeling very warm before you came, and I feel still very warm. In fact, I was going to extend to Joe that if it's going to make him feel just a little bit more comfortable, he can use the word, if he drops the hard R on the end in my presence, he can say the word Kraken.
Well, so what have y'all been talking about? What have I missed? Is there anything I need to talk about that you guys have already talked about that I should have talked about, but I
What
wasn't
does
there
your
for?
Thanksgiving dinner consist of?
And dicks. We were talking about dicks.
Africanized dicks coming at you.
Well, my Thanksgiving dinner was just a bunch of stuff from Trader Joe's. We didn't have any big fancy. We were supposed to have a big fancy Thanksgiving, but then because of COVID, it got canceled on like Monday because some of the family members have COVID, and there's also elderly family members who were advised by their doctor not to mix with the kids that are sort of children, but therefore they're still unvaccinated. And, if you're in your late 80s, you don't get to be in your late 80s if you're not a careful person, right? If you don't take care of your doctor's advice, then you don't get to be that old. So they decided that we best cancel the big event that we had planned. But we still had a little event, I saw the grandkids and all that kind of stuff. It was good fun.
So are you on the road still?
Yeah. Hence the background. Yeah. I mean, I'm next weekend I'll be back in Colorado, and I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully I'll be planted in Colorado for a period of time so I can get a few things accomplished. But yeah. So anyway, yeah. What else was I gonna say? So it was Thanksgiving dinner and dicks. Really? That's what
Yeah. We started off very briefly with Aubrey and then Rittenhouse, and then we were all getting like not happy, and then Raven was smart enough to say, "Let's talk about Thanksgiving."
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, The trick is that there's so much depressing news at the moment. It's tempting to not talk about it or even want to look at it anymore. Just to the point where you're just like, you turn it on, you watch it for 3 minutes, and you're like, I'm already done. I'm already like, my bullshit tank has been full for so long, and I don't know. But that's exactly.
Talking about news.
You can't look away when at a moment of crisis, you need to pay attention. That's when you need to pay attention, right? So.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the stuff that's been in the news lately is stuff that literally there's nothing that I could actually do anything about. So it's kind of like, all right, so I'm aware that it's going on, but I don't need to focus on it because ain't shit I can do about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's been true most of my life. I always felt like I couldn't do anything about stuff, and I still kind of feel like that. I can vote, I can demonstrate, but that seems to me to be insufficient to the task. Do you know what I mean? And I could never run for office because, me, my past, man, I could never run for office.
What sort of spotty things
unelectable? Huh?
What spotty things you pierced? What's wrong with that?
Well, and I've done way too many drugs and
You're allowed to inhale now. All those things only disqualify you from running as a Democrat. You could be all sorts of criminal and have a criminal past and run as Republican, and they're perfectly fine with that.
Well, that's really funny you should say that. I remember in 2012, I decided to register as a Republican for the first time in many, many, many years because I wanted to vote in the Republican primary, and I thought it was incumbent upon people with a more liberal disposition to try to drag the party leftward. That was my thinking at the time. And I wanted to vote for John Huntsman, if memory serves me right, but then he dropped out before the California primary, so I never did vote for him in the first place. It was a wasted exercise.
See, in New Jersey, what's kind of cool is you can change your party affiliation on election day,
right?
So, or on the primary day. So, my friend Amanda does that. So she likes to stay independent, even though she pretty much votes. She hasn't voted for Republican in decades because they suck, but she stays independent, and then she changes her affiliation to Democrat on primary day, so she can vote in that, and then she switches back the next day.
A hostile leftward takeover of the Republican Party would almost certainly fail, but I think that's the only way to save it. I think they need an injection of people who are sane, because a lot of the people who are like just going along with the way the radical extreme part of the party is going, and other people are just going along with it thinking they can ride it out. But I don't think that's a viable option.
Why are we trying to save their party? What?
I was just saying, I think that the people like me maybe should join the Republican Party to drag it back to the same. But it's I don't know. I think it's a lost cause.
Well, here's why I guess I wouldn't want to save the current party, but okay. I agree with the left way more than anything on the right, but I don't agree with everything that's on the left. And there are things like, okay, I'm an interventionalist. You guys know that, and that's something that's definitely more of the right wing. Now, not to the extent that the Republicans do it, but there are times when I feel like the moral thing is to intervene militarily. For instance, I know that, again, we talked about this, like a lot of the left got mad about Obama going into Libya, but my attitude is, well, the war had been going on for over 2 years. We didn't start that war, but a lot of civilians were dying, and between us and NATO, we were involved for literally 2 weeks. And that was the deciding factor and pushed it so that the anti-government forces were able to take over and end the war. I think that, to me, was more moral than sitting back and watching an atrocity happen. I think in Darfur we should have intervened instead of literally setting up base camps where people could come and get food and water and everything, and then literally watching atrocities happen just outside the exclusion zone where people were getting raped and murdered and killed. To me, that why bother at all? That was just the West patting itself in the back, saying we're doing something moral. Either stop what was going on, or don't do anything.
Yeah, I understand the interventionist inclination, and when it comes to issues of genocide, I kind of agree with that. You know, I mean, Darfur, or even 25 years ago when the thing happened in Rwanda.
Right.
I mean, I remember when that was happening live on the day, because I was crying when I was watching the news, and my kids, who were only small at the time, they were like, "Dad, why are you crying?" And I couldn't explain to 4-year-old and 5-year-old kids why people were killing each other with machetes. Yeah. And the inability to explain that made me even sadder than I already was, because there is no explanation for that, right? And you can definitely not communicate it to a child, why people would do stuff like that. But
yeah.
Okay, so Duckzilla, here's the thing about libertarians. Libertarians are like house cats. They're fiercely convinced. How's it go, Joe? They're fiercely
convinced of their own independence, while simultaneously being hopelessly dependent on a system they don't understand and don't acknowledge.
Yeah, libertarians are house cats.
Yeah, it's been a meme that's been going around the last few days, and it's basically, I've been saying this. I haven't used the house cat analogy, although I think it's brilliant. But I've been basically saying the same thing for ages, that I call them leeches. So basically, they're leeches who hate their own host.
Well, I don't really have much to say about libertarians per se, but I do have something to say about the modern GOP at the moment, because I was just thinking about this earlier today. And I don't even know why calling them the GOP is too lenient these days, because that stands for Grand Old Party, and they are not the Grand Old Party anymore, if they ever were. They're not even really Republicans anymore. It's openly fascist now. I mean, they've gone in dozens of states to try to limit people's access to the ballot, and any party that actively promotes and tries to create a situation where minority rule will be the norm, minority rule is inherently fascist. And so they've taken steps to do that by defying subpoenas and so on during the impeachments, and now with the January 6th inquiries. They completely flout the law. They got no respect for the law. They're openly trying to make a hostile takeover of the government. They're fascist. And it annoys me every single time they don't get called fascist on the news now, because to me, the jury is in. The verdict is in. It's over. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not, are they maybe fascist? Are they because oh no, they're not Hitler. I can't anymore. They're openly fascist.
I remember years ago when there were people who, and even some people I respected, who were saying that I was being alarmist because, they're not doing it. I'm like, well, do you think if you look in history, both Italian and German fascist movements, they didn't go from being normal people one day and next day just lining people against the wall and killing them.
Slide.
It was a process, and it's or it's the same thing about warning about a police state. I'm like, look, just because everybody isn't being rounded up by the police doesn't mean that we're not heading toward this. And and even as much as I can't stand Bill Maher anymore, but he brought up the whole 14 points. I forget who did that originally. And Bo of the Fifth Column did a video about it. He's like, no, with the exception of extermination camps, literally all of the things on the list are now complete.
Right.
So, hey, it's not alarmist to say it anymore. It's not. I mean, we're here. It's here. If fascism isn't coming to America, it's here.
I agree. Mike, you look like you had something to say there, but you thought better of it.
I just earlier today was talking about inflation and how some people don't think that inflation is that big of a deal, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. And how that reminds me of the Weimar Republic, and how cash was good for nothing more than burning to keep your house warm, because inflation had devalued their currency. And what helped Hitler take power was that economic strike that people were facing, where they couldn't feed themselves, and he promised them the world.
Well, I mean, inflation is a real concern, and I don't mean to like downplay it, but at the same time, I mean, you know, and I'm not the first person to make this observation, but I mean, when Reagan was president, inflation was like 10% for the first couple of years that he was president, and that's obviously way too high. But I don't know. I mean, people were blaming the previous administration for that. At the time, as I recall, as a young man, they were blaming Carter for the inflation that Reagan inherited, and Biden does not seem to be benefiting from that same sort of understanding. And I'll also say this about what's going on right now. I mean, I think I'm right in saying that Biden has ordered a review of the price of fuel because the fuel companies have jacked up the price of fuel by like 25% over the past 12 months, more or less across the board. And as far as I'm aware, their prices haven't gone up by 25%. So there seems to be some price gouging going on. I think the gas companies, the oil companies are taking advantage of this inflationary bubble that we're having and actually exacerbating it because so much of inflation is the rise in price of gas. If you took away the rise in the price of gas and then looked at the level of inflation, I don't think it would be anywhere near as severe as it is.
Well, also, too, the price of gas is only slightly above where it was pre-COVID. You know, that's the one thing a lot of people forget. It was already up there, but what happened was the reason for the drop, COVID caused the drop because no one was driving anywhere, no one was going anywhere, and so there was a fuel glut. And so it was causing a big problem, and OPEC was panicked of what to do, because, you know, they try to get their members to cut back production, but the problem is that a lot of nations can't afford to, even with depressed prices, they can't afford to stop pumping because that's their only source of income. Yeah. So they built up this enormous glut. In fact, they were lazy, you know, sending tankers to the middle of the ocean to hang out because there was no place for the oil to go. There was, you know, they sidelined a lot of the refineries for the same reason, because like there was no reason in producing more gasoline and more motor fuel and everything because no one was using it, and they didn't want the prices to go down even lower. So now that people are driving and back to, you know, roughly back to pre-COVID levels, you know, the thing is, it took, you know, the prices went back up before the glut of oil went away, and now we have basically artificial shortage on oil.
It seems to me that blatant price gouging is going on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm overreacting, but I just drove last week from Colorado to St. Louis, and the price of gas went down as we went eastward, because in Colorado we have some pretty high taxes on fuel for environmental purposes, and you know, I'm okay with that as far as it goes.
Joe and I are actually pretty lucky in New Jersey because gas is usually lower in New Jersey than everywhere else.
Right.
Well, I was talking to my dad in California, and he was paying $5.89 a gallon. And
well, before we raised the gas tax a couple of years ago in New Jersey, it was the first time it had been raised in like 30 years. We had the lowest gas tax in the country, like 17 cents a gallon, and so our gasoline and full serve gasoline here, because we have only full serve, it was cheaper than most places self serve. You know, we're pretty much around the country. We're no longer the lowest, but we're still fairly low, in part because the Bayway refinery is one of the biggest refineries on the East Coast, and the Carteret-Linden Rahway area is the largest petroleum storage facility on the East Coast.
Outside the Middle East, it's the largest outside the Middle East.
Yeah, good point. So basically, when all that stuff glutted, they topped off all these tanks. They're full to the brim, and the producer is right here. So our prices are generally fairly lower than everybody else or most other places.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting back to what I was saying about inflation, you know, has historically been a lot higher, and we did not turn into a fascist country. So I don't think inflation all by itself will drive us there. But there's other forces at work right now trying to drive us there, and inflation, unfortunately, has the effect of lowering consumer confidence and also confidence in the prevailing political party in the White House. So, you know,
I mean, the thing that gets me is that the economy because of all the spending the last year and a half, the economy is actually doing fairly well. And basically what's actually hurting, I was watching an economist talk about, and it basically confirmed what I've been saying for a long time, for the last several months, that the main, not the main source of the prices going up, and beyond the obvious price gouging, as you mentioned, Paul, is that basically because we have these shortages, which were started because of COVID. A lot of plants were sidelined, and it's taken a long time to get up. And then you had a backlog of orders. No one was ordering anything for a long time, and now everyone wants. And so he said, and this is the reason why he was not concerned about the having a double dip recession or something like that, because people are spending money like mad now, because they couldn't really do anything or go anywhere or buy anything, and now they can, and they're just like, they're so eager to get the fuck out of the house and go buy shit.
But the elephant in the room is that nobody seems to want to talk about is that a significant portion, I'm not an economist, so I can't say like what the proportion is, but a significant proportion of this inflationary pressure came from the fact that they printed $4 trillion worth of money at the beginning of COVID to bail everything out. I mean, do you remember that? Because a lot of that went to Mnuchin, and we don't necessarily know where all that money dispersed to, but you can't create $4 trillion out of the air and not have inflation. The
thing is, if we didn't have the shortages, we actually would have very little inflation.
Well, because when you use the money as it was used at the time to help stimulate the spending in the economy, right, which is what it was for in the first place, and to keep people working and paid for and all that, but still, it's a simple matter of math. If you increase the money supply, that is necessarily inflationary pressure.
If you increase the money supply and the supply of goods don't go up.
Yeah, if the GDP doesn't go up, but the money supply goes up, then you've got inflation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that there's no longer, basically they're no longer printing money, as Mike likes to say. But the thing is that we still have shortages. So this is like, it's not traditional inflation where there's plenty to buy, but there's way more money. It's the opposite, where there's money, there's not enough to buy. People want more than is available. The demand is outstripping supply of goods.
Yeah, well, that's because of supply chain problems as part of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it.
Yeah, a huge part of it. I mean, when you look at those pictures that you see of all the ships off the coast of like Long Beach or LA or whatever, and you just think they're never ever going to clear it. I mean, it's only getting worse, and it's typical. Just working with water in a funnel. You put too much in too fast, and you're never going to get it out as fast the other way. And
We'll see. One thing that's kind of interesting, though. Now, some people attributed it to the Biden administration. Unfortunately, it's not something they can take credit for. But I guess LA County started fining the shippers for basically not putting enough people on or whatever. All of a sudden, they found people to work the docks and to increase output. So it's like, wow, amazing! Imagine how that works. So it goes to show again. See, here's the other problem too with high prices. You said price gouging. There's a lot of benefit if you're a seller to keep the notion that there are, we can't provide you with stuff, so we're going to charge you extra money for the same stuff. There's basically windfall, and I kind of wish that, like, when Carter was president, he had the idea. It was called the windfall profit tax. I don't know if you remember that. But
yeah, I do.
At the time, it was really to hit the oil producers who were getting these windfalls. Where the, like you said, where the price of oil doesn't go up, but all of a sudden they're raising the price on the speculation,
and their profits go up, but because the prices go up, but then the service doesn't go up. Something's wrong.
Exactly. So the idea was to say, okay, well, if you do that, well, we're going to tax you and kind of disincentivize you, and if you do it, at least you'll be paying for some shit that we need.
Yeah, they did that in the UK when the Labour government took over in '97. They had this windfall tax on all the previously privatized industries because they had made so much profit. They used to be publicly owned, and people basically were getting ripped off. So they said, here, we'll just do this one-time windfall tax and tax them 10 billion pounds or whatever it was at the time. And they just injected that into the economy and changed the country. I have to say, when I lived in the UK and the government changed in 1997, it was the most distinct and probably the only time in my life that I ever saw where someone won an election and the country instantly changed, visibly, noticeably, perceptibly, not just to me, but to everybody. Things got different within the first 6 months. I mean, it was fast, you know. And I've never seen that happen here. Change here is so much more sort of incremental and.
Well, I mean, it's the way the system is built. You know that you need, well, particularly with the Senate rules, right? As long as the filibuster has existed, the Senate's always been the slow.
Right.
You might get fast things out of the House, regardless whether it's the Democrats or Republicans, but you can only do so much in the Senate.
Which is hilarious because the House has 4 times as many members. You'd think it would take longer there, right? Anyway, listen, friends, I can't stick around. I just wanted to check in, say hi. Thank you very much, Joe, for running the show this week. And to you silent puppies down there, how you let me dominate the conversation. Thank you.
For that little bit of time that you were here.
For that little bit of time that I was here. I appreciate it. And I will be back in Colorado hosting next weekend. So peace out. I'll see you all soon.
Take care, Paul. Let me fix this.
Oh, Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, I always say, because then we're like, yeah, I remember that. I remember Charlie's Angels. I actually liked Kate. Yeah, I think it's Kate Smith.
Oh yeah.
Most people were preferred Farrah or then Cheryl Ladd after. I didn't care for either of them. It was Kate Smith.
No, Kate Smith, all the way.
Yeah. But it's, and what's happening now. Like I got an order from a customer the other day that they've been buying like a few controllers every month or every other month. And because of the shortage, it's been taking, like the last order they did, literally the stuff just shipped this past week. I ordered the stuff they ordered the stuff in August, and we just got the stuff this past week. But so they ordered some more stuff, and he basically ordered 5 systems worth because he's buying ahead, And I'm like, well, this is why we have a shortage, because everyone's doing that. But it's making it difficult for me because, and I've been telling all my customers, I'm like, you guys need to buy spare parts, because like you use most spare parts we might need for replacement are usually stock in Bridgewater, but now that they're not, like common items are not stock anymore. So it's like, well, your shit breaks. I may not be able to fix it for you for a few days or a few weeks. So. And I can't afford to stock, like $180,000 in merchandise, which is what it would take to have spare parts of everything. Plus the fact, if I did, it would run out the warranty.
Yeah.
That's it got quiet in here, kind of.
It did. Well,
what happened? What caused the dip? So we were talking about Thanksgiving dinner and dicks.
Yeah.
Raven's like, bring it back to the disc.
Back to the dicks. I don't know. I'm just tired of depressing shit.
Yeah, me too.
I am burnt the fuck out. It's awful.
Actually, that reminds me of when Harold Camping made his prediction years ago. And I was arguing with some right-wing creationist douchebag, And he was like so convinced it was really going to happen and everything. I'm like, all right, I'll tell you what. I will bet you $1,000 that nothing's going to happen. And they were like, he thought about it for a second. He's like, well, wait a minute. If something does happen, you're not, you don't have to pay, or at least money would be meaningless. But if it doesn't happen, then I got to pay you $1,000. I'm like, right. I'm like, well, you're so convinced, if you're so convinced, then what's the problem? And then I was like, I guess you're not as convinced as you like me to think, huh?
Do either of you have an Apple phone?
No, I don't.
Oh, but look at this. That's a light on the back of my phone.
Ooh, which phone is that?
Purple. It's a purple light. It's a Razor.
Oh, okay.
I got it from my kid. So because my phone's broken, so.
Yeah, I don't have an Apple phone. I do have Apple stock.
He called it a gaming phone. He goes, I have my gaming phone. You could use that.
But he had a secret phone just for running games on it?
Yeah, he's serious.
Okay.
I have 750 shares of Apple stock.
I had apple pie. I finished it this morning.
Apple pie. Yeah, apple pie. I'm like, it's good. I'll eat it, but I'm not ape over it. Suzanne makes I guess it would technically count as a galette. It's like basically make apple pie filling, and then put it in a fold it up in puff pastry, and that's good. That I love. That's like my favorite dessert.
It's almost like an apple turnover.
Almost.
See, now I used to take apples. I used to go when my older kids were little. We used to go apple picking, and we end up with all these apples. So I would, in the fall, cold nights, I would chop up the apples and put them in a bowl with sugar and cinnamon and some butter, and I put it in the microwave for a while. And we called it apple guts.
Apple guts.
And I would ask them, I was like, hey, you want some apple guts? Oh, yeah, Daddy, make apple guts. Make apple guts. So, yeah.
If you put a streusel topping on, then it would be, that would count as, I don't know if it would be a crumble or.
Yeah, it would probably be a crumble.
But yeah, there'd be a name for it. Yeah, the tart. Yeah, like I said, I like pie wise, I like cheesecake's actually a pie. It's a custard pie.
Pizza, that's my favorite pie.
That's my favorite savory pie. Although steak and ale pie is pretty good too.
I had a good mincemeat pie once. It was a savory
pie.
I had a good mincemeat pie. That was a savory pie.
No such thing.
Well, Brian's not here to defend all things British.
And mincemeat means something different to them than it does to us. Because here, mincemeat's actually like meat.
That's minced.
And there, it's like different.
Yeah.
Mincemeat actually has like fruit in it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a mince pie. It's a sweet pie of English origin filled with dried fruits and spices called mincemeat. So it's kind of funny. No mince, no meat. What's the deal? What's the deal with mincemeat? No meat, no mince.
That was a pretty good Steinfeld.
That was pretty good, yeah. What's up with that?
Years ago, this was before Steinfeld was even really all that famous. I was in high school, so that tells you how long ago it was. It was Damon Wayans and Anthony Michael Hall. They were both on SNL very briefly, and and Dennis Miller, and they did this sketch where they're supposed to be comedians working at a club, and they're all like doing stuff in that Jerry Seinfeld style. Because I mean, Jerry Seinfeld is the most famous comedian to do that, but he's certainly not the only one that had that kind of rap. And so they were just kind of making fun of that thing, and then it's funny that Jerry Seinfeld went on to be enormous, doing exactly that. And they were making fun of it being kind of schlocky and.
No, I mean, yeah.
Well, that's why, like, when people, I mean, he's okay, but I mean, people act like he's so amazing. I never thought he was great, and I thought I hated the Seinfeld show.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I mean, like, I didn't hate the show. I just wasn't a fan.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
You know, my friend Al, you remember Al, right?
Wow.
Loved Seinfeld. It was like his favorite show ever. I mean, any conversation we had, some point he would bring up Seinfeld.
Ask Al what Seinfeld was about.
Yeah.
I don't really talk to Al anymore.
Yeah. It was a shame.
I saw him a few weeks ago. Actually, no, it's more than that now. A couple of months. I saw him a couple of months ago. We got coffee and we were talking, but yeah.
There was I remember when shortly after Seinfeld went off the air, somebody was talking about, okay, it was the #1 show in the US, but with black audiences it was like number 89. Because it just didn't track, you know.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah. No one likes the show. What's that? What's the deal? Well, black people watching my show.
Wow.
And there was like an episode I thought was pretty neat because they were in Paramus. The car broke down at the Paramus Mall, and I was like, "Hey, I know that place."
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun when they mention something that's actually like a real place that you've been to.
Okay, so all right, so we have to explain this for Mike. So Paramus is a town in New Jersey that has more malls per square mile than anywhere else on the planet. So people talk about New York City is like famous for its shopping. Well, people from New York City will travel to Paramus, New Jersey to go shopping.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a huge fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm either. Although now his name just said it was there and now it's gone. Larry David does an excellent Bernie Sanders.
Yes. Oh, did you? I don't know if you probably heard this already, but they were both on. Well, I think it was not Who Did You Think You Are? It was the Henry Louis show with Henry Louis Gates, the genealogy show that he does, and it turns out that Bernie and Larry David are cousins.
Of course.
So it's right because normally what they do is like when somebody goes on the show. And they do a DNA, and if they happen to match somebody who's been on the show previously, they'll show you, hey, well, guess who your cousin is. And they did the episode they did with the two of them. They did both of the two of them, and then at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, and show you who your cousin is, and they're like, and this was after Larry David had already started playing Bernie Sanders on SNL.
Of course, they're cousins, though. I mean, it's two old white-haired, grumpy Jews. How many of those are there?
Oh, I don't know. You've been to Queens, right?
What's the deal with that?
Oh man, that was so fucking cool. Like,
I brought it all the way back around.
Well, the best part about it too is like, according to the DNA, they were not like super distant either. They're like probably like fourth cousins, which isn't that far. I mean.
Not far, no.
That's basically your great grandparents were or three times great grandparents were double.
I love the way that Larry David did Bernie Sanders with the whole, I put my pants over the heater to, the whole, I don't spend any money. It's just like, wow. That is so convincing.
Oh yeah, he was. Larry David was awesome as Bernie Sanders. This is funny.
Yeah, Peach's grandparents. They're like that. They're both very Bernie Sanderish. Yeah.
We and I grew up in my grandmother's house, so she was half, and so like and the Chupuka, he was raised Jewish. He's adopted, but he's raised in a Jewish house, and so that and his wife is actually like her father was Jewish, so we have this whole connection, and so we joke about it a lot. And so sometimes Philip will come to my office and he's like, "So how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I start kvelling.
Peach's grandmother's husband, her grandfather. It's not really her grandfather, but her grandfather. Jack. He's old. The dude is like older than dirt. I think he remembers when they invented it. But every time we go out to Washington, he always, he gets a hold of me and starts talking, and he'll talk forever. I mean, he'll talk forever. I mean, and it's like stuff like this. It's like, I was watching on the news and I saw a story and it reminded me of, I think it was 1975. No, 74. My God. And then that's it. Yeah, he just kind of goes. He's like, I remember it was during the Nixon administration and I was working at NBC and I'm like, where is this going, dude?
Oh man. Oh, like
I actually kind of enjoy it because it is funny. Everybody thinks I'm crazy, but it's hilarious. So I just sit, I just take it all in, and he just like rattles off all this crazy stuff, talking about working at NBC, and yeah, it's great.
Like with my growing up with my grandmother, same thing. I like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean you guys probably heard already. That's there's going to be a streaming series, History of the World Part 2.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And Mel Brooks is producing it. He's like 90 million years old. It's awesome.
89 million.
I wonder how much they'll be able to get away with this time around. Because it was a groundbreaking movie back in the day,
He's 95.
Yeah. But it's streaming, so it's he probably get away with a lot.
Yeah.
Streaming.
Melvin Kaminsky.
That's his real name?
His birth name, yep. Melvin James Kaminsky.
Well, my opinion is he made a good choice.
Well, what's really funny. I may have mentioned this before, but my great grandfather and his brother. So the brother was Abraham, and my great grandfather's first name was Moses. So in the 20s, Abraham, like, he was actually on Wall Street, and Moses was doing other stuff. So in order to fit in, because there's a lot of bias against Jews. So in order to fit in, they changed their name to sound less Jewish. And so Abraham became Arthur and Moses became Morris. But they kept their last name, which, if I told you, it's very obviously a Jewish name. It's like, I don't think you guys did this well.
So, you guys voting Biden in 2024?
Well, I'm hoping he's not the candidate, but if he is, I'm voting for him. I mean, at this point,
I'm throwing my hat in the ring now, then, just so there's somebody to vote for.
If there's a primary, I will vote for somebody else.
CNN's saying that he intends to run for re-election.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
One big mistake, and I meant to mention this last week, and I got angry at Jack and quit. The early on, if you remember, like every week there was like a whole bunch of shit he was getting done for a while there. And I remember watching a political show, and somebody made the point, and they've turned out to be right. Like, he needs to slow down because he's getting all this done, and everyone's all happy, but people have short memories.
Yeah.
He needs to hold some of this off later so that he can maintain the enthusiasm, because otherwise, if it slows down or stops, then it's going to be, what have you done for me lately? And plus other bad, and also the occasional bad thing will happen. And at least if you have good things still rolling out, you can kind of maintain it. But they were right. What's Brundle's Lab? I've never heard of that. From The Fly?
From The Fly.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't watch it because it's like had a lot of gross out humor, and gross out like whatever. Like I don't like that.
Jeff Goldblum became Brundlefly. Brundlefly. Yeah. It was kind of a weird, gross movie. But Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum, though.
Yeah, he always is. I remember 10 Speed and Brown Shoe. It was him and Ben Vereen. It was a cop show.
Oh, wow.
They were detectives, and that was one of Jeff Goldblum's first things.
Wow, don't remember that.
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, 10 Speed and Brown. I'll post the link here for it. For the IMDb.
Wow.
So that was, let me see, 1980.
Wow.
Didn't last very long. It's only one season.
Wow. Yeah, I like Jeff Goldblum. He's weird.
He is.
Weird is usually pretty good.
Let me see.
It's what that's what I shoot for. So
Jeff Goldblum. Oh, he was actually had a bit part in Death Wish. The what's his name? Let me see here. Charles Bronson movie. And then again, a bunch of small parts. He was on an episode of Starsky and Hutch.
Huh.
Yeah, 10 Speed and Brown Shoe was the first big thing that he had. I guess he had a fairly prominent role in the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was like, I think, a remake of some other movie. What was that movie? There was a movie like, I don't know, 50s or 60s, was like there were these pods and they were taking people over.
Hey, Mike, you okay?
I'm not.
You look cold.
I might be.
You do. You look like you're cold.
Well, after you get that vaccine booster, you start turning into an alien, and sometimes you get the shivers.
Yeah, no, it didn't affect me. None of the shots affected me. It hurt. That's it.
I've had problems with Klingons on the tail that I sprouted.
So I wouldn't mind being an alien if that meant I could go to another planet.
Okay.
That's probably the thing that probably the biggest disappointment in my life is that I will never get to go to another planet.
Yeah.
I wanted to go since I was a kid. Even the moon. Moon's not another planet, but it's close enough. It's a planet. It's some planetary body, you know.
It works.
Although it's funny, like I remember saying years ago, like, well, if someone just came to the door and said, "Hey, look, Joe, you can go to Mars, and it's gonna be a one-way trip. You're never gonna be able to come back home, but you get to go to Mars." And I was like, "Yeah, I go right away." But then, like a few years after that, there was a company that was planning on sending a couple to Mars, and it wasn't a one-way trip, but it was you were gonna be able to go. But then, like the thought of like when you go there, it's like a 6-month trip. Or close to a 5-6 months. And then the thought about it, like the thought of being in a can in the void for nearly 6 months, and I was like, it actually got scary really quick. I was like, oh fuck, you're just like, because there's no help, and if shit goes tits up, you're fucked, you know.
We could change the name of this planet. What if we left? We should change the name of this planet anyway. It should be Terra. I like Terra. Because that way we're all Terrans.
Yep. And
That's a little bit too close to everybody being trans.
You know.
People aren't going to hear it right. Like, you're not going to get the right on your side with that one. Everyone being Terran.
What did she say? She wants everybody to be Terrans? Them T-Rans.
T-Rans. Oh, y'all like Chris. Well, see, one thing would be interesting because obviously a lot of religious people, they'd want to, like the hyper religious would want to bring Bibles and shit to see if they knew about Jesus and all this, which of course, they wouldn't. But it would be really freaky if you met aliens from another planet, or you went to another planet and they had one of the religions that we had on Earth, and it was exactly the same, like the same books verbatim and all that. That would be weird.
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to say? Jesus?
Yeah.
You're from Earth, dipshit.
Yeah, what was he from? Missouri? Like, Missouri's in on Earth, dipshit.
Yeah.
What master do you serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus?
Jesus?
What's the irony is that Chris Pratt's very, very Christian.
Yeah, he's like douchebag Christian. Unfortunately, it's sad.
Yeah.
You learned some douchebaggy things that he believes?
He's a fundamentalist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very much so. His church is very openly anti everything. He is a true believer. It's really sad. It's really sad because he's kind of cute.
Yeah, Chris Pratt responds to Ellen Page calling his church and of course now be Elliot Page anti-LGBTQ. Because it is.
It is.
He says it's nothing further from the truth, but it's like, no, it is. The Hillsong Church.
Yep. But I mean, and it's funny because what he's doing is pretty dishonest. Where he's going to kind of whitewash the things that his church says, and he still goes to that church. He's rabidly Christian, but he's like, oh, but no, it's not anti-gay, and I don't have a problem, but you do, and it is, and they are. I mean,
it's a Pentecostal church.
But I mean, he has a career he has to think of, and it's just like so dishonest.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to overlook it because, he's a good actor and he's cute. But then when he got cast to be Mario, it's like, come on.
Well, here's
Did you say Mario?
Yeah.
okay. Here's a statement from that church. I wish to correct reports that Hillsong Church has an openly gay couple directing at choir.
Yeah.
And then it says Hillsong's position on homosexuality and gay marriage has not changed and is consistent with scripture. So somebody thought they had that they had a gay couple leading choir, which would make me like them better, and they're like, no, we totally don't. No, like yeah, we just want to let you know we're homophobes.
So they're making a new Mario Brothers movie.
Again, with the Mario.
Again with the Mario. And Chris Pratt he's playing Mario. He was cast to be Mario. So
I heard there's plans to not try to fake an Italian accent.
That would be good if he tries not to do that, But if you're thinking like, when you mean Mario, do you mean hoo-hoo Mario? Yeah, Mario. Yeah.
No, I was just amazed by your pronunciation of Mario.
It's Mario.
Mario.
Not Mario. It's not Ma. It's Mario.
I mean, in Italy, sure, but we're in New York, man. No one in New York, no Italian in New York says Mario.
Yeah, no Italian on the East Coast would ever say Mario. It's Mario. It's called, actually. There's a name for this very distinct dialect. It's New Jersey Italian, and they say things like Mario and Paramus and Passaic.
Chris Pratt's Mario movie activity phenomenal, producer claims. So he is doing it.
Oh, he is? Oh, no.
Looks like it's going to be an animated movie, not live action. Okay, co-producer of Super Mario has confirmed that Chris Pratt won't be replicating Mario's thick Italian accent. Okay, that's good.
That's good. Hoo-hoo! It's me!
We're going to get a pizza.
It's me! I'm gonna win!
I've got yeah, I mean, well, I never had the only Mario Brothers I ever played was like the arcade game, the original arcade game, and then the Atari 5200 version of it. But I never had like an NES, so I didn't have like that Mario Brothers or Super Mario or whatever it was called.
Okay. So there's a whole shit ton of Mario games after Nintendo came out. So on the N64, which was cool because it was like a 3-dimensional game, Mario would say all kinds of just really weird, wacky shit, like "I'm gonna win." No, Mario Kart. I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
And then every time he jumped on Nintendo 64, and he would say, "Woohoo!" So every time you made a jump, he would say, "Yippee! Yahoo!"
You got to turn that shit off.
That was wild. I loved that shit. When that came out, I would play it all the time. And I would make him jump up against the wall, and he'd be like, "Yippee! Yippee! Yippee!"
I remember for Super Nintendo, Mario Kart was on it, and I played Super Nintendo Mario Kart enough to have, like, when I closed my eyes to try to go to sleep, I could see this plane in the horizon of,
No, I used to have that with the bricks on the Mario Brothers on NES.
You saw bricks.
Close my eyes and I could see the bricks with the question marks on them and everything. The whole thing. Yeah, it was bad. Actually, I dreamt of my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. I played way too much. interesting stuff. I spent a lot of my late teenage years playing Nintendo. So I had a friend who would play for days on end and drink pot after pot of coffee. Yeah. You all right?
Yeah.
Get a blanket.
I'm just tired. I probably need a job. Can you handle this without me?
Well, we'll probably end up closing the. Wait until Joe comes back, because I think I'm going to go too. Because I'm thinking about heating up some food. So.
Propter Hawk loved the original Metroid. Might not realize that he was playing a female character.
I was going to say that. A lot of people don't realize that. Samus is a girl. Actually, I love when people find that out.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, sir. Like, oh, yeah. Correct. No, sir.
What ruined the Metroid game, I think, in my opinion, was the proliferation of everyone figuring out the Justin Bailey cheat code.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, this cheat code spread word of mouth, like across the country. And all you had to do was put in the name Justin Bailey and then dashes on the second line for the password, use the save game password, and you would basically have full everything but Mother Brain beaten. And you could just go right up to Mother Brain, kill her, and check people.
There was what was the cheat code? The on the paddle, up down, left right.
They call it the Konami code.
Yeah, Konami code. Yeah,
it works on more than one game.
Yeah, we used to use it on the was it Contra Rebels or something like that? Was that the?
What did it do?
On the original Contra, it would give you 30 lives instead of 3.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you modified it at the end, instead of pushing start, you push select start, you would play 2 players, and both of them would have 30 lives. And what you could do then is just have one player lag the other one, stay behind, and try not to get hit. And you could have like 60 lives trying to get through the whole game.
So I assume that was probably put in for play testers that they they could run through the whole game without worrying about losing.
No, it was more like a God mode code that they put on like a lot of their games.
Right, but I mean, I would assume that the God mode there was at least initially, probably originally was there for testing purposes,
So like a million years ago, I had a job at Joe. You'll probably remember the store, Rickles Home Centers. Okay. It was one of my first jobs in retail where I was actually management, and it was a long time ago. And they had this brand new computer in the paint department that they used to match the paint colors. And one of the kids showed me that you can get into the computer, and there's a game buried in the computer of gorillas throwing bananas at each other. And I was like, "Why the hell is that here?" And he was like. And I hadn't even owned a computer yet. That's how long ago it was. And it was just like, oh, most computers, there's games that are built into it, way buried in it, because that's how when you're programming a computer, it's for testing the computer, or it teaches the computer logic and whatever bullshit he gave. But it was just like, yeah, all computers have games embedded in them. And I was like, ever since then, I've always I wish I knew more about these stupid fucking things, because I want to see what games are inside.
To my knowledge, the very first Easter egg that was ever planted in a game was there was an Atari 2600 game called Adventure, and it's supposed to be like in knights and dragons and shit, but it was a very simplistic system. So your character was literally a square. and you would go around the map, and there were weapons you could pick up, and there was creatures that you had to deal with. And there was in this one maze, there was a dot that you could find and pick up. And if you brought the dot back out of the maze and put it on your right side, there was a wall there that you normally couldn't pass through, but the dot would allow you to pass through the wall, and it had like basically the programmers put a thing where it basically listed who they were and all that kind of stuff to say, oh yeah, we made the game, blah blah blah. Yep. And that was like the first one, and then after that, all the things we've seen since then have all grown out of that.
There you go. Oh yes, by the way, Don Rickles did start. At the very least, he started the Rickles Home Center. That was Don Rickles, yes.
Joe, in addition to that pink thing that Raven figured out, while I was in the Army, and I had contact with a lot of different legacy systems from Agilent and Tektronix. Their oscilloscopes all had embedded games in them. You just had to know how to get to them. Usually it's pushing a few buttons that are right underneath the screen and holding them down while you push power. But there were things like Tetris and Asteroids and all those classic games.
Nice.
Why?
I appreciated it when I was overseas and had nothing to do, but I didn't ask why they had those games embedded in them. But I figured
it's just such a common thing. I wonder why they do it, though.
So Rickle was actually had nothing to do with Don Rickle. Three brothers, Al, Mort, and Bob Rickle, and they started the home stores. I guess they were in a plumbing business for a while, and then they opened a store in Union, New Jersey.
That was the first one. Was in Union.
Yep.
I didn't work in that one.
And the headquarters was based on South Plainfield, in South Plainfield.
Yeah, that
but
sounds.
I guess its parent company is Supermarkets General, which is Pathmark, which is actually Manhattan.
But that was right. Right. But that wasn't always from the beginning, though. Because because I was a manager at Channel Home Centers first, and Channel was bought by Rickles. The corporate office for Channel was right on. Oh shit! That road. I think it was on 10. It was right on Route 10. Pretty sure. And I remember when the buyout was done, on like within the first hour, Rickles people went over to the Channel Home Center corporate office, and they went office by office and just told people to leave, to pack their shit and go. They were fired. I remember because I was at the store that was about 5 minutes away from the corporate office, and we were getting live updates. They're like, "Oh my God, it's like a slaughter."
Yeah, so I guess they filed for bankruptcy in '95, and then they were still running in '97, and then in '98 they still had 53 stores, and Staples picked up 41 of those leases.
Yep.
So that was right when you were talking about when.
Yep.
And then there was another bankruptcy filing in 2001, and then. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it was really sad. I mean, the thing is, I fucking hate Home Depot.
Okay.
Because the selection, I mean, if you're a builder, fine, but if it's actually, the selection actually sucks. For if you're not a builder, there's a lot of shit that they don't carry. And it's like you go into this big fucking vacuous place. Like, remember, like Raven worked at Channel. I remember Channel Hardware and Lumber, and then what was the other one?
Ace.
True Value.
Oh, True Value, yeah.
And they were good.
A lot of the True Values became Ace Hardwares, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
But there was Channel and Rickle, and Channel was bought by Rickle, and then Rickles was bought by it was like three guys that didn't know anything about running a store. It was like they were from entertainment. They were from like a TV thing or whatever, and they basically ran it into the ground. I think it was I think they bought it to dismantle it because they bought both companies and merged them.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And that's what. Well, that's the kind of shit that fucking what's his name did. Mittens. And the people like, job creators like, no, it's you're a job destroyer.
Job destroyer.
You go in and you basically buy a distressed asset of below value. You sell off the hard assets and then you dump it and you take a write off for the losses for paper losses. And you make a lot of money. And that's like when I forget, there was that one picture of Mitt Romney where he and his guys are holding all these, all this money in their hand. And they're like, ah. And what they were celebrating is that they destroyed a company and sold off all the assets. And they personally were enriched and left all the debt in bankruptcy court. So they literally just like took the value out of the company and then left the debt behind and saddled the banks with the debt.
Yeah. I ended up working at Home Depot. Because I went from Channel and then Rickles and then Home Depot. But I mean, at the time, Home Depot wasn't very big here yet.
Right.
Home Depot was just moving into the area. And Channel and Rickles, they were both headquartered a few miles, in the grand scheme of things, a few miles from each other. And they were regionally had this whole area locked down. It was Home Depot that really kind of into their grip on the area. I worked at Home Depot. Home Depot sucks.
And there's rarely, you knew because you worked at other places, you actually knew what you're talking about. But like most of the people there, they aren't no dick.
Oh, I didn't know. I was in the plumbing department. I didn't know a whole lot about plumbing. I didn't. I mean, like I was a manager of of lumber. I was in the lumber yard. I drove a forklift all day. People are like, where are the 2x4s? They're over there. Where's the cement? It's over there. I didn't have to know anything. But when I went to Home Depot and they put me in plumbing,
I mean, that's the thing. Is I kind of like when before Radio Shack went under, when they kind of went away from the traditional geeky electronic stuff and went more toward computers, which basically ultimately is what killed them. They tried to be a phone store and a computer store, and they didn't do either of them well.
Yeah.
And so their ad campaign at the time was, "You have questions, we have answers." And I remember going into a store and I was thinking about buying something, and the person that knew jack dick about computers. Like I knew more about computers back in the 80s when I had my Apple IIc than this fucking guy did. And I remember I was getting really frustrated, and I said to them, I was like, "Yeah, I have questions, you have answers, but only if the appropriate answer is duh."
I prefer Lowe's to Home Depot also, but honestly, they both suck. They're pretty much carbon copies of each other. So, but Lowe's tends to be cleaner. My experiences with it, Lowe's tends to be cleaner.
Yeah.
They've got their selection is of a higher quality.
Right.
Still the same stuff though.
For the most part. But, I think I'm gonna call it a night, people.
Us too.
Yeah.
Michael was complaining a little while ago that he was very tired, didn't want to talk, hated the world. He said all of that.
I concur with all those things. I hate the world and I'm tired.
That was just what my right eyebrow said.
It was what?
That's a very communicative eyebrow.
It is.
Ooh, I like that. Sorry. So you can't. What?
You're friend zoned again. I mean, looking at my eyebrows.
My ex-boyfriend used to do that. I used to love that. Yeah, that would drive me crazy. I can't do it.
Poor Raven. So thanks to everyone who came here and participated or watched or stalked, except for the trolls. Trolls can fuck off. And Raven and Agent and poor Amy trying desperately to talk and having it not really work out too well.
She got a good speech in there, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Brian was cool having Brian on again. And so we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.